Is this working? I'm doing a different stream template setup. I hope it works. Oh, shit. Alright. Alright. I'm on time. I'm pretty on time. Okay, so first of all, big shout outs to... No, I swear I saw it. Someone said... Someone asked about my shoulder. Someone asked. Where was it? Where is it? Someone asked about my shoulder. Oh man, did I imagine it? No, come on. I know I saw someone ask about my shoulder. Man. Okay, well, now people are asking because I brought it up. But, you know, it's good enough. Dr. Farewell says, how's your shoulder, Morge? It's better. It's a lot better. How do people like the chat box situation? Is it bad? Excellent chat layout? Yeah, why is the chat this color? You guys won't be able to read that. You guys can't read that. Ivan back from the card shop says, if Raid fails, I hope that week's spoilers are just pictures of you with no further comment. The chaos would be hilarious. I doubt that they would ever do that. But that'd be funny. Pina says, Mord streams greater than One Piece right now, to be honest. No comment. Felix C says, Mr. Morgentime. Mr. Morgentime, do you think Lava will be a homie next chapter? No. How do I change? Let me change the... I'm sure there's something I can do about this chat box. I'm sure there's something I can do. Font settings, text color. I'm actually learning so much right before... I'm evolving before you guys' eyes right now. Watch this. It's black now. That's pretty cool. Do we not like that? I can change it again. What color do we want? Do we want red? Red? Do we want red? I'm making it red. Wait, is it not changing for you guys? It's changing for me. No, it's changing for you guys. Okay, let's throw it to the people. What color is best? Wait. Josh Muiz says, Warge. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, this is my awakening. If Kaido doesn't awaken, at least you guys can watch me awaken as a streamer. J.K. Kane says, what do you think of 1050 cover story? I mean, Fiji says I low-key need it. Low-key need what? The black text or the red text? What do you need, Fiji? I can make it happen. What color is best? Black, blue, red. I don't know. What other colors are there? I think I covered all of them. Green, I guess. Ask your community. Black actually is perfect. Well, then vote for it. Princess Taco says, Celestial Tribute! Jinbei cosplay when? Since I'm Indian, I'm always in Jinbei cosplay. Willis Townsend says, I have a pretty good Luffy times Garp theory if you want to hear some of that. You ship Luffy and Garp. I don't want to hear that. I've never heard that one before, and I don't want to hear that. All right, the people like black, but the people never got to see blue, so they don't actually know what they're missing out on. Josh Muiz says, never mind Lorge saying my last name wrong. This is some BS. How am I supposed to say it? I think your last name is Josh Muse, but you spelled it wrong, so that's your own fault. Morge Raid Discussion says, Raid to Flower Capital, next 2 chapters, hashtag the Raid 2. Electric Boogaloo? I don't know about that. All right, we're going to make the chat. Fine, we'll make it. Wait, how did I do that? How did I do it the first time? Okay. No, I mean, if you guys like black, we'll keep it black. We'll keep it black. That's okay. You guys don't want to see the other options. That's fine. You guys are like that kid in, or not that kid, whoever it was in Green Eggs and Ham. you know, the guy that didn't want to eat the green eggs and ham. You guys are like those guys. You don't want to try it. You're just like, no, I don't want to try that. I don't want to try anything new. That's fine. We never see what green text looks like. That's okay. Pierce Sullivan says, Morge, who's your favorite Sonic character? Mine is Vector the Crocodile. I don't know who that is. You could have just made up a Sonic character called Vector the Crocodile. I would have no way of knowing if that's correct or not. You could say Bernie the Sheep or something, or like Dobie the Goose. I don't know if these are real Sonic characters. If I had to pick my favorite Sonic character, it would probably be Sonic, because I know who that is. Or Knuckles, because he was cool in the movie. John Muiz says that's a fair point, can't argue. No worries, John Muse. Ivan back from the card shop says, please react to this lol. What is it? I'm not logged in on Twitter. Oh, this is Joe 3 Skull Theories thing. I'm not looking at that right now. Young Midoriya says, who wins the finals? My heart says Warriors, my head says Celtics. I'm weird in that I support the Warriors, but I think that personally they've had a fucking cakewalk so far to the finals, whereas the Celtics have had to go through some battles. I think the Celtics have proven a lot more over the course of, these playoffs so far. I would love to see the Warriors pull it off, but I think, size, physical defense could be rough for them. And I think they've really been living it easy. I really think that they've been living it easy. I don't think they've ever had to actually overcome a significant challenge in this playoffs yet, so they haven't proven anything, in my opinion. I would love to be wrong. I would love to see the Warriors win. I want them to win. But as it is right now, I'm just like, okay, what happens if they run into a real team? Not the Grizzlies with 50% of their games having a significant injury, or baby Luka Doncic with just him, Uninspired says, how does One Piece stack against Hunter x Hunter, or are they too different to compare? So here are the juicy questions, which are going to naturally start coming out now that Hunter x Hunter is back. I wonder, okay, first of all, do you guys think that there's a possibility? That Togashi saw how controversial the reaction was to the recent One Piece chapters? Because the reality is that no matter how you spin it, there is a very polarizing response, I guess, to current One Piece chapters. Some people say that this is a great conclusion. Some people say it's a satisfying conclusion. But a lot of people are like, this is BS, blah, 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 blah. It's to the point that you have, as we saw, a lot of people, because as far as we saw from polls and percentages and stuff, about 10% of the community believed in the raid failing 5, 6 chapters ago, right? But you have a large percentage of people that I saw start switching over and saying, fuck it, now I want the raid to fail because of the way things played out. So you have a lot of people that are very dissatisfied, but a lot of people that are satisfied. I wonder if Togashi was like, all right, One Piece is in a sticky spot right now with some split reactions and controversy to how it's going. Now let me make my announcement as that I'm coming back and stuff, and see everybody go nuts over Togashi. Togashi's back. Hunter x Hunter's back. We have something to look forward to, etc. New King of Shonen, blah, 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 blah. I wonder. I think that it might be possible. I doubt it. I doubt that that's what happened. But, it's just funny timing. It's really funny timing because you see lots of One Piece YouTubers who shall not be named, but if you're on Twitter, you probably know who's who, basically being like, you know what? Fuck One Piece. I'm not about One Piece right now. I'm just happy Togashi's back. That is a large, and it's not just YouTubers. There's a general sort of sentiment like that in the air from at least what I've been seeing. My personal opinions on One Piece versus Hunter x Hunter is that they excel. They're exact opposites. I think that they excel at two totally different things. One Piece is probably the most, it follows very traditional shonen storytelling and executes it really, really, really well. I think One Piece is if you want shonen feel-good stuff, good guys triumphing over bad guys with epic setups, long-running building narratives to one powerful conclusion, things like that. Strong emotion, just playing the traditional good versus evil sort of beats for the most part. Obviously with some things mixed around and everything like that. But for the most part, One Piece executes good triumphing over evil really, really, really well. Whereas Hunter x Hunter does not aim to do that. And Togashi likes to get pretty experimental with the direction that he goes with lots of different arcs, right? So in those two categories, One Piece, Hunter x Hunter, very different. I have always valued One Piece more and appreciated it more because, one, obviously the emotion attachment to the characters for me much, much stronger in One Piece. But two, is that the other thing that they're really, really different in is macro versus micro storytelling. Hunter x Hunter has a very, very, very loose, almost hazy, almost like pretty much not important overarching plot thread. It's like a loose little string, like a very loose string. It was like kind of like let Gon try to find his dad, and that's kind of the loose string that's kind of connecting Hunter x Hunter arcs. There's a general direction, but for the most part, each arc is fairly self-contained, and each arc is its own type of story, and it's very drastically different from like what you might have gotten like 2 arcs ago, or what the next arc is. Like the current boat arc is very different from, say, Greed Island, which in itself is very different from Chimera Ant, which in itself is, I'd say, fairly different from even like York. Like each arc, he's doing something very different. He just likes to use the Hunter x Hunter characters and the setting as his like playground to sandbox something totally new. Whereas One Piece, it's all about the macro cohesion, right? All about the macro cohesion. How is this storyline building on this storyline, building on this storyline, and all of the pieces are clicking together and fitting together, and everything is actually moving in one big direction. You just don't see it for a long time. The further you go in the story, the more and more it's like a giant tower that's being built up. So you could say One Piece is like a giant complex tower that's being built up, whereas Hunter x Hunter is like lots of brilliantly created little interconnect, like, I don't know, like a village or some shit. I don't really know how to say it. Like, maybe you've lost the analogy, or it was a shitty analogy to begin with, but you get the gist of what I was saying, right? Cut what I was saying about the tower and the village or whatever, but you get what I was saying. Macro versus micro storytelling, their approaches are very different, and even arc to arc, what the stories are aiming to do is very different. I prefer One Piece, but I'm very excited that Togashi's coming back, because for me, the boat arc that we were on right now, for me, was shaping up to be my favorite Hunter x Hunter arc. And because I'm talking about Hunter x Hunter a bit too much. There's a One Piece stream. I'll just clarify that basically for me, one of my favorite things, I love mysteries. And specifically in the mystery genre, I love mysteries that take place with a certain cast of characters stuck in a singular location with a lot of differing motivations and some horror elements all mixed in. So sort of like a murder house sort of setup. I love mystery setups like that. That's my absolute favorite. And the current Hunter x Hunter arc was basically that. It was basically that, but with Nan and magical abilities and all sorts of bigger plot repercussions and major characters that we know and things like that involved in politics and stuff. So I was loving the current Hunter x Hunter arc. I'm excited for it coming back for sure. I'm not 100% caught up because I wanted to wait till the arc would conclude, and I believe that the arc will never conclude. Mysteries are always better read all in one go. Nepson says, rather have teeth for hair or hair for teeth? These are the type of dumbass questions that we agreed not to respond to. I will respond right now because it's the beginning of the stream, so I'm in a good mood. By the end of the stream, I'm in a bad mood because I've had to go through too many dumb questions. Rather have teeth for hair or hair for teeth? I would rather have hair for teeth. I would rather have hair for teeth. Because teeth for hair, I think all of society would just shun you as a weirdo. Versus hair for teeth, I could kind of just go like this. And no one would know. JK Kane says 1050 cover story. Okay, so we're talking about that. 1050 cover story. I have no thoughts on the 1050 cover story. I think that there could be more to it. I hope there's more to it. Like, it's exciting to see how the Whole Cake Island stuff played out, because that was a huge hanging plot thread with what happened with Germa. I hope something more exciting happens. I hope it's the Blackbeard Pirates. Somebody else, I think, mentioned that, like, what's going on with Ichiji and Reiju cannot be the same as the two individuals that showed up, the two hidden individuals that showed up a while ago. So it's different groups, but I don't know if that's the case. I'm not trying to get too excited about it. I'm just like, okay, we'll see what happens. If it's just Ichiji and Reiju, I don't really care. Josh Moise says, Warriors beta. Yeah, I hope they win. Sausage Lord says, can't wait for the epic Morge rant. Restock plushies. There will definitely be new Morge plushies if the raid fails. If the raid doesn't fail, then I don't deserve new plushies. None of us do. None of us deserve new plushies if the raid doesn't fail. In fact, I will ask some of you to return your plushies. Pierce Sullivan says, Vector the Crocodile. This is the leader of the... Okay, guys, listen up. Pierce Sullivan is informing us of some BS fanfiction made-up Sonic lore. Vector the Crocodile, a real character, just like Oogie Boogie the Goat, another Sonic classic, I'm sure. Vector the Crocodile is the leader of the Chaotix Detective Agency. Man, you're going to have to try harder than that. We know that's made up. The Chaotix Detective Agency. So he's super smart, strong, and cool. This is so fan-fiction-y. This is just some OC original character that you made up. Also, Sonic or Nux as your favorite? Question mark. Basic. What do you mean that's basic? It's that what? At least I'm talking about real characters that exist, not Vector the Crocodile, the best detective in all of Sonic Land. What the fuck? Between Sonic and Knuckles. So my knowledge of Sonic comes mainly from two things. Super Smash Bros., which had Sonic but not Knuckles, and Sonic 2. I never saw Sonic 1, but I did see Sonic 2. So based on these bits of information, I guess I like Sonic more. Nah, I like Knuckles. I don't know. I don't care enough. It's not Vector the fucking Crocodile, that's for sure. Let's say it's Knuckles if I have to pick one. Xavier Wooten says, oh, actually, though, Sonic is voiced by Ben Schwartz. And Ben Schwartz, little do you guys know, has long time been low-key one of my favorite, like, random comedian actors, comic actors, or whatever. Because he was in this web series called Jake and Amir pretty frequently as a guest. And he was hilarious in that. Ben Schwartz is actually one of the funniest off-the-cuff people I've ever seen. He's misused in Sonic, but, you know, I like that. Anyway, Xavier Wooten says, Admirals versus Yonko, who's stronger? I think the average Yonko is stronger than the average Admiral. I think that there could be exceptions, like maybe a Kainu. I could see a Kainu beating Big Mom or giving Kaido a run for his... I don't know. I think it's very hard to say at the moment, but I would say, like, yeah, I don't think there's any Yonko that, like, Fujitora could beat. I mean, maybe he could beat Blackbeard. I don't know, but I think on average, Yonko, I would personally put Yonko on average above Admirals, but I think... Admirals give them a tough fight. Josh Moise says, I was on the it ain't finna fail train. I can never say that read out loud. And now I want it to fail because I was not satisfied in the slightest. That's what I'm talking about. There are a lot of people like that who are like, raid's not going to fail. Then we get to the ending. Anybody who has any memory whatsoever of any One Piece arc conclusions basically feels underwhelmed because you know that it doesn't live up to usual One Piece arc conclusions. So now you're on the train. But, you know, the train might also crash. So, once you're on it, but, just know that the train might not reach its destination. Felix C says, it's because of the disappointment right now that you're the patron saint of our pirate folk. Oh, really? There's a Reddit that's nice to me? I ought to go there. I could live with a Reddit that's nice to me. Skylar H says, howdy Morge. What's stopping you from quitting your non-YouTube job to work on the Movie Morge channel and / or towards making a movie? Have a good day! ! Because the non-YouTube job, right, is not a job. It's like it's a business that basically I've worked on for years that I own a part of, right? So that I'm not gonna be like, things are complicated. Let's just say that, because basically it's like, if I really, really wanted to go all in on what's like one thing YouTube-wise, like it's am I looking at things like passion-wise or what is most effective towards my long-term goals? My long-term goals, for any of you who don't know or are new to seeing me, my long-term goals is one day I would like to be able to fund my own independent film and be able to get do a full creative project like that. Whether it's good, bad, I don't care. I want to be able to fund doing my own independent film, and that's something that I've wanted to do for a long, 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 long time. So everything else I'm doing in life right now is in service of that main goal. The movie channel helps with that because it also gets my thoughts on movies and etc. in general. But at the end of the day, is it smarter for me to work on 2 YouTube channels or 1 big YouTube channel and keep trying to scale that? Not that the current YouTube Morge channel is a big YouTube channel, but it's something that if I put more time into, etc., I could conceivably scale it higher. Versus splitting my efforts between my business plus this, plus a 3rd channel. And if you know the movie channel, it has more higher effort videos by far than the average video that comes out on this channel. I do really, really want to go back to that. So it's something that I do really, really want to do. And if things line up in a certain way that I don't feel like sharing right now, then I will go back to that. Unrivaled says, hi Morph! I finally caught one of these live. You've been my fave OP YouTuber for some years now. Hope everything is well in life. Thanks for the good content. Thank you. I appreciate that. That is a nice, just well-wisher. I'm sure that if he knew about my shoulder, he would have asked about my shoulder. My shoulder is good. It's better now. I was able to work out again last Friday for the first time in a while, which does feel good. Clayton Kimbrew says, I like the idea of Luffy saving Sanji and having an impact on Germa's emotions. Headcanon for sure, but it adds up to me. Germa's emotion angle was always a little confusing just because they clearly care in some instances. There are many panels where they do clearly care. But then when Judge is being held at gunpoint, they don't care. But then it got a little confusing to me in terms of like when Oda wants to invoke the idea that Jeremiah are just cold and unfeeling. Luis Vasquez says, Mord, you should watch Son of the White Mare! Exclamation. I feel like Oda got a lot of inspirations for Sun God Nika from this film. Actually, I've never heard that reference, which is actually maybe a sign that it is something that has some merit. Sorry, I just accidentally pulled myself up. Trying to go to the other tab where I can not miss comments. I've never seen that. So the Son of the White Mare, I've actually never even heard someone mention that. People are claiming Vector is real. All right, how many people are trying to get in on this conspiracy? I'm not going to Google some made-up OC fanfic character. Vector the crocodile. Guess you're going to tell me Dildo the armadillo? You guys can't trick me like this. D's the nuts. What characters are you guys going to make up next, huh? Anime Dimension says, have you seen Shonen Jump commented like this? The historical battle of Luffy and Kaido is over! Exclamation for chapter 1050. Yes, I did not think anything of that, though. Because that's just Shonen Jump saying shit. And that battle probably is, like, it's over. So if anything happened next, I guess you could count it as a new battle. I don't really know. However, because the way Oda spins it with the text boxes and stuff is a little strange right now, right? So it was like, Kaido wins the battle on the roof. And then it's like, well, Luffy wins the battle in the sky. And like, why is he changing the names of these battles and stuff? So I don't know. Where are we at? Son of the White Mare. Okay, I got it wrong. My bad. But I've never heard of that. So that actually does make me believe more that it could have something to do with something. Just because it's something that people haven't talked about already. Josh Moise says, how's your shoulder feeling? Thank you, Josh. Shoulder's feeling good. I already said that. Josh Moise responded, well, that last super is useless, lol. You answered it. Exactly. Ivan said, the biggest disappointment... Ivan back from the card shop. Again, props to Ivan for making the last tier list. Biggest disappointment if Raid doesn't fail is that half the Strahds being useless for 500 chapters and new characters like Carrot and Yamato doing 0. Can we all talk about how Yamato didn't do anything? Can we acknowledge that Yamato didn't do shit? How? She yelled at Kaido for a bit. No, I guess you have to give props for like her helping Momonosuke get through his stuff, because Momonosuke certainly wouldn't have pulled off what he pulled off, I guess, without Yamato yelling at him for 50 chapters straight. So that's something. Pierre Sullivan says, for the Buying Morge Sonic Heroes Fund so he can see Vector the crocodile. I will never look at or acknowledge this crocodile. At this point, even if he's real, I'm just going to pretend he's not. Morning Morality says, how confident are you in Kaido getting up now? How is Luffy supposed to survive? Do you think the volcano blocks out the sun like the real Mount Fuji did? I didn't even know Mount Fuji did that. That's interesting. How is Luffy supposed to survive? ... question mark. I don't know. I don't know answers to questions like that. How confident am I in Kaido getting up now? Okay. Because that sounds a little flippant, let me say that basically Oda can very often find ways for Luffy to survive, right? He got Luffy out of Marineford, he got Luffy out of Thriller Bark, he got Luffy out of any slot. Like, there's so many times throughout the series where it's like, okay, so this guy should be done, basically. He's there's no way out or whatever. He should have died to Magellan, etc. Oda can always write in something. So for me, the last concern is, how do they survive? How does Luffy get out? The simplest thing I could tell you is, like, if it's like, how does the entire alliance not just get massacred by Kaido, Beast Pirates, Big Mom Pirates, etc., is that it seems pretty clear right now. I think maybe we shouldn't count chickens before they hatch or whatever, but it seems pretty clear right now that it was stated that if Kaido and Big Mom fall, then the world government is going to make its move on Wano to try and capture it. CP0 witnessed Kaido seemingly falling to Luffy. CP0 left. Most likely, my assumption would be that this triggers the world government to make a move so that now there is a third party and a major distraction, which would be the Marine/world government at Wano's doorsteps, which would give Kaido/Big Mom bigger fish to fry, at least for some time being, for people to regroup. That's my thought on that. Luffy specifically, how he's surviving, Oda can write anything he wants. How confident I am in Kaido getting up? I'm fairly... there's... like... no matter how, like, okay, so here's what I do, right? So anytime if I'm like, Okay, I'm not sure. I don't know if he's going to get up this chapter, but I've already said that, hey, if it doesn't happen this chapter, then I have to say, at least for the time being, look, looks like the raid succeeded, and I have to stop talking about it, right? I hope it's this chapter so I don't have to go through that. But it's entirely possible it happens the next chapter because next chapter is a break week, right? But for the sake of me not looking as though I'm going to keep on pushing it back and back, I have to pick a cutoff point, which is why I'm picking 1051, all right? So after 1051, if Kaido does not get back up, no indication, no flashback, whatever, no indication that he is, maybe something more is happening with him or that his fate might be up in the air. If none of that is there, then 1051, you're going to hear me shut up about this, basically. Hear me shut up about this. I guess that's what you hear. Me not talking about the raid failing. Me saying that, all right, for the moment, we have to say it succeeded. All right. But anytime I kind of doubt or I'm not sure, like, is Kaido getting back up, I go back and reread things. So I go back and reread things. I also go back and reread things from previous arcs, etc. I'll say this, that one thing that Oda has always done with every major villain. So Arlong, let's go down the list. Arlong, Crocodile, Lucci, Moria, Doflamingo. I think that covers the big ones, right? Enel, right? There's always one point that I can point to over the course of the fight where it seems as though Luffy has won the fight. So there's always one point that Oda does with that. First he has Luffy seemingly win the fight at one point, and then he has the villain make a comeback. So with Arlong, this probably works better if I do it in a video so you guys can see the panels, etc. basically. But Arlong, I don't know if you guys remember, but Luffy kind of kicked his ass. Then Arlong kind of woke up, went into this berserker mode where everyone was like, oh no, his eyes changed. He went to like white shark mode or some shit. And then Arlong continues the fight, right? Crocodile, same thing. Luffy kicked his ass in water mode. Then Crocodile got up, right? The chapter had ended with Luffy seemingly having defeated Crocodile with water bazooka or whatever. Then we have next chapter, Crocodile getting back up, turning things around. You can kind of go, I'm not going to go walk through the list for all of this, but there's always a point, right? With Kaido, there was never a point that Kaido, and this might be one of the reasons that people feel like Kaido went down too easily or something like that, is that there was never a point that, we never hit a point where it kind of seemed like Luffy had like knocked down Kaido once, and then Kaido got back up and turned things around, and then Luffy won from there. But that might be the case in terms of what just happened now. I don't know if that makes sense the way that I just explained it. But basically, over the course of any major fight Luffy has with the villain, there's always a point where Luffy seemingly has knocked down or knocked out or beaten the villain. And then from there, the villain gets back up, and it's kind of like intensity of the fight scales up for a little bit, and then Luffy wins again, basically. With Kaido, there was no point over the course of the fight where Luffy actually knocked Kaido down or had him knocked down in any sense, kind of. You know what I mean? This is the first time we've seen Kaido this is the first time we've seen Kaido basically seemingly get beaten down by Luffy. And so when people are saying, oh, that feels too easy for Kaido, and people are like, oh, what are you talking about? It's been so long. Part of the reason, subconsciously or not, that you might feel it's too easy is because in the past, we've seen with villains like a Doflamingo, like a Crocodile, like an Enel, there's a moment where Luffy seemingly wins, and then the villain gets back up. It's like, oh shit, he's still going and stuff, and that's hype and exciting and stuff. So it like makes it feel a little more dramatic. Whereas right now, you might not be able to put your finger on it, but it's like, wait, Kaido's done? Oh, so he's just done? Because this is like the first and only time that it seems like Luffy's actually like just beaten Kaido. And it's like, okay, so he's not coming back up. I think just the memory of kind of subconsciously of how One Piece fights, like the flow usually goes, and how villains usually feel more dramatic towards the end once it actually is time for them to be defeated. There might be some of that in readers' heads, whether they recognize it or not. But the reality is, you've been reading a series where, from start to finish, like any major fight, there's usually a bit of a false alarm type moment in terms of like Luffy beat down the villain, but then Oda shows the villain's tougher than that, has the villain get back up. Sorry I spent so long on that explanation, but it's just speaking out loud, basically, what I've been going back and rereading recently. More raid discussion says, Usopp promises to save himself, plus Kinemon and Kiku made me think that Usopp might be on the brink of death because Kinemon and Kiku has a build-up to potentially dying. Look, I don't even want to get into the deaths and stuff like that right now, because I do think that death would be warranted here for some major character or the other. But I do think that it makes so much sense for this arc, and so many characters have glaring death flags and things like that, but I can't speak on like, well, is Usopp going to save certain characters? What's Usopp's situation right now? Stuff like that. Is Kiku and Kinemon going to make it towards the end? I still don't even know like how many of the Red Scabbards made it over to the Flower Capital. I hope Kinemon did. Because if Kinemon's set to die, then if he didn't make it to the... Well, not hope Kinemon did, but like if Kinemon is a Scabbard that's going to die, I would like him to be able to see Otsuru at least once. And he won't get to do that if he's at Onigashima while the other Scabbards went over to the Flower Capital. Hamda Jaled says, the official translation made it ambiguous if Yasue ate the smile, just him saying, you save any for me, ? And directly showing him joyous and all. I mean, I would think that Yasue ate the smile. I think that's stronger. Gonzalo says, if the raid succeeds like this, it means we wouldn't have any major negative consequences for the story. There still has to be a Kuma moment. I mean, I agree, but you guys already know I agree. Vizcale Jordan says, no one has talked about how we've only seen Kaido and his coat, not Big Mom. Dude, the thing, I don't know if it's his coat or if it's Big Mom. I literally don't know. Nate Rohr says, is CP0 getting away from Wano scot-free? I mean, I think that CP0 is going to be back with bigger numbers, you know, like that Star Wars quote. They'll be back and in more numbers next time, because I think that the Marines/world government are going to make a move to try and take Wano. Bartos Z says, every arc had the climax of lifelong dreams for people involved, and Momo just says, I will open the borders later, ? The Luffy versus Kaido is 4 rounds. Yeah. Momo not wanting to open the borders just yet, to me, that's, I mentioned it in the chapter review, that's a huge, that's a huge red flag to me. But look, at the end of the day, so many things are red flags to me. I look everywhere and I see red flags. And then people tell me like, well, those are your wrong expectations or something. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to try and ignore the red flags. They look really red to me, really glaring. Is it the, okay, by the way, hold on. Is it a coat? Is it Big Mom or a coat? I can't believe I'm having to do this poll. This is such a bizarre poll. Is it, guys, is it Big Mom or is it a coat? All right, answer that. Is it Big Mom or is it just a coat? I don't know why he drew the coat on the side if it's a coat. All right, so people think it's Big Mom. I would agree. I think it's Big Mom. I think it would be unnecessarily just visually ambiguous to make it a coat. Like, Oda's just like, all right, well, now he's just not going to have his jacket for some reason. Gunvarel says, why are people satisfied with the climax? ? Denial? ? Naivety? ? Because a lot of people just really like One Piece, and like a lot of people, I mean, everybody will feel satisfied from different things. So I don't know. I could say what I want to say, but it's just not worth the hassle that comes with it. So it's like, if people enjoy it, then they enjoy it. It's whatever. Supreme Pirate King says, everyone just forgot about Kaido's victory scream, lol. I mean, I agree. Like, there's so... But we could just go down the list of the number of things that people forgot about or ignoring. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, if Oda just decided not to do that, that's also a possibility. Those things are also a possibility. So people seem to agree it's not a coat. All right. I just don't think that's the likely possibility, because I don't believe he's the type of author that would leave this like ridiculous number of things basically kind of up in the air, to the point that it's like, well, even the initial idea of what the arc began with, of opening the borders of Wano country, that's supposedly not something that we're going to get at the climax of the story. I don't know. Ivan back from the card shop says, what if Momo not opening the borders is just a shitty excuse for Yamato to join the crew without having to feel bad about fucking Wano immediately again? Oh, I see. Leaving it without a guardian because, well, the borders aren't opened or whatever. I think Yamato joining the crew right now would be bizarre. And that's, like, my Yamato hate notwithstanding. Okay. Does it make sense for Yamato to join? No. Join right now. So specifically right now. I'm not saying at the, like, you know, if you believe that there's more to the arc or whatever and that she's going to join, sure. But does it make sense for her to join right now? Because as far as I can tell, she hasn't met any of the crew. Her relationship with Luffy is paper thin. She mostly spent the arc not doing that much besides yelling at Momo. I think Yamato joining right now would feel really, 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 really strange. It would be kind of like Like, there's only one Straw Hat that you could that's even, like, kind of comparable to Yamato, and that's Brook, and I did a whole video explaining why even that similarity is not that strong of similarity. But Yamato, the only similar Straw Hat in terms of the manner in which they joined is Brook. And even with Brook, yeah, Oda did a lot of things differently. This character for the first time doesn't need a character arc for the first time. Their backstory is at the end of the story for the first time. Like, it's like a character who's already lived out a full life, leading a second life, whatever, right? So there were a lot of firsts with Brook, but even with Brook, Oda still spent most of the arc trying to connect Brook to the Straw Hats. There were a lot of interactions that Brook had with the Straw Hats. His storyline tied perfectly into the Straw Hats storyline, and he was fighting side by side with them alongside all of them against Oars and everything like that. He was heavily involved in the story of the arc as it pertained to the Straw Hats. So it would just feel really strange to me if Yamato spends 90% of the arc talking to Momonosuke, 10% talking to Luffy, or 5% talking to Luffy, 5% yelling at Kaido, and then she's a Straw Hat. Ivan back from the card shop says, what if Momo... No, we covered you. Felix C says, surprised no one has mentioned the volcano eruption potentially blocking the sun with the ash. People have mentioned that. I personally don't know how much stock to put into that, because it's like... from my perspective, it's... Yeah, this is some really weird imagery that we're getting at the end of an arc. We're supposed to be seeing the dawn at the end, right? Seems like some very dark, foreboding imagery. But I'm trying not to read into that imagery too much, because you could argue that's like a thin reason. So on the flip side, I'm like, okay, so could it block out the sun potentially? Yes, but it would also be like Oda could also just as easily just have something magically cleared away or something like that. Like, I don't know, like, if, like, there's options we could throw out, right? Momonosuke maybe be, like, he has dragon powers and stuff at this point. Maybe he can manipulate the weather and move the volcanic ash out of the way, and it's like, oh, that's a good moment for Momonosuke. He literally helps bring the sun back to Wano. I don't know. Like, I'm just spitballing random shit, but I'm like, I'm not personally counting on the idea that, like, oh, look at this ash. This ash means no sun, no dawn, therefore things are going to go bad. I like to think that, but, like, it could also just be, like, a random thing that Oda includes for a chapter or something like that. Clayton Kimbrew says, the borders were to open to welcome Joy Boy, but he's there already. No need to open up for additional risk. Is that truly the main reason? Because for so long, we've been hiding, like the Joy Boy stuff, we've kind of covered that already. It became very abundantly clear. Like, even from, like, Odin's little flashback Odin's flashback, right? It became clear from Odin's flashback that part of opening the borders of Wano were, like, he said, like, we need to open the borders by the time Joy Boy returns, right? But if that's the main reason, we need to open the borders for Joy Boy to return, right? Then why has Oda kind of kept so many other aspects of Wano so secret, right? So Big Mom going down, she's talking about there's a secret here in this land that's very, very important related to the One Piece, right? We keep getting references to the borders being opened, but if it was already addressed all the way back in chapter, I think it was like 1068 or something. I think that was when Odin basically talked about opening the borders for Joy Boy. I don't think that we got the full picture out of that, because I think even from 1068, most of us could be like, okay, so opening the borders is related to Joy Boy. That question was kind of like addressed partially there. But opening the borders has been referenced so many times that, like, it's more so it sounds like the nation of Wano itself is important for some reason. Because, again, Big Mom's quote reinforces that. There's other small things that seem to reinforce that. Pages of his notebook missing. So I don't know. Mr. Crescent says, do you think Kaido and maybe Big Mom might not have awakenings just because they were so strong naturally that they never needed to, but now that they're on the verge of death, they will awaken for the first time? That would be a really cool theory. Some people have talked about the possibility that, hey, maybe Kaido is already awakened, right? A lot of people are pushing that. That's factually a possibility. It would be really bizarre for Oda not to reveal that during the fight, but that's factually a possibility. But there is no possibility that Big Mom was already showing her awakening during the fight. Reason being, Big Mom's abilities, as far as we can see, is granting life to other things, right? You take souls, you give souls. You take souls, you give souls, right? That's Big Mom's ability. She could already do that day one when she ate Mother Carmel, right? From day one when Big Mom ate Mother Carmel, we saw immediately afterwards she's able to bring life to flowers and stuff around her. So that ability of Big Mom's fruit, I forget, the Soro no Mi, I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Big Mom's fruit's ability we have not seen its awakened form yet, because everything that she's been showing so far was the same stuff that she could do when she was a little kid, when she had just eaten the fruit. So not awakened whatsoever. She could already do that. So Big Mom definitely has not shown awakening. Kaido, maybe you could make an argument. I think it would be wild that Oda wouldn't reveal that we are getting Kaido's awakened form right now as is. I think that'd be really, really strange. So I personally don't think that's the case, but it's possible. Jaden Buffo says, when are we getting reaction streams, Warge? Question mark. Oh, we'll get reaction streams. Wait for next break week, which is pretty soon. It's like around the corner. Banning23 says, what if instead of Kaido getting up, I'm also considering, by the way, so I enjoyed streaming actually after the chapter last time. I'm considering doing that again going forward. So I might do a thing more so where it's like I do Thursday streams and Monday streams. Part of the reason I don't want to commit to streaming after the chapter is because it varies, right? So sometimes the chapter comes out on Thursdays, but it used to always come out on Fridays. I'm not going to stream on Fridays. There's things I'm busy with basically, and by the evening, I definitely not going to be streaming, right? But Thursday evenings, that's doable. I could stream post-chapter discussions on Thursday evenings when it's like most relevant. And then maybe Monday streams, it's a mix of talking about the chapter and maybe some variety stuff, so like react streams or whatever, basically. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. I gotta see, I'm gonna talk to TCB if he's around here and kind of just get the idea, like, our chapter is generally gonna come out on Thursdays or what? So Monday, people, you won't be missing anything on Thursdays because Mondays we can still talk about the chapter or whatever. But if you're available Thursday evenings and I start doing Thursday streams, then that'll be a thing. Jaden Buffo, yeah, we covered you. You were just what we just discussed. Banning23 says, what if instead of Kaido getting up, we have the Marines showing up with the SSG to forcibly open the borders under the world government? That'd be exciting. It would be, my theory would not be correct in that case. I'm never going to claim that the world government showing up is the raid failing. It has, like, my whole argument was it's about Kaido and what it takes to free Wano or whatever. But yeah, that is a possibility. The Partier says, it'll be weird if the Wano citizens never knew about the actual fight and just got the spark notes from Denjiro now. I like the way that that's phrased. We still need a moment where they stand up and show some mental fight or resistance. I would agree. Naturally, I would agree. Spoiled Milk says, I really enjoyed your Yonko Kid video and wanted to hear some more of your thoughts about him. Now that he's put some faith in Luffy and Law, can you picture him possibly joining Luffy's alliance? I would hate if he joins, alliance. I think no, because the alliance was a singular goal, right? The goal was that Luffy and Law are in an alliance to take down Kaido. So they had shared the same goal. Obviously, that morphed into, well, let's take down Doflamingo while we're at it. You know, we happen to be stopping along here. Let's just check that box off, and then we'll get to Kaido. So I don't imagine any other singular goal that Kid would want to ally with Luffy for, right? Because they can't become Pirate King together, and at this point, their next stage is basically Pirate King. Thomas Gass says, Film Red being about Shanks' daughter is literally the crocodile's nephew analogy. Yeah, but it's a movie, man, so we give it a pass. It's a movie. It's a movie. Movies, we don't hold to the same standards. Movies are just fan fiction, you know? Oh, Keenan, what's up, man? What's the threshold for what should and shouldn't be considered a Chekhov's gun? I mean, that's controversial. I think we can all agree that the Tamate Bakura box was a Chekhov's gun, and I think most agree that the Florian Triangle monsters aren't one. Agreed. Why is this the case? So the argument for what is or isn't a Chekhov's gun, I personally think the threshold is kind of like, because we would have to go through so many examples to get to like something concrete, but the reality is that there's always going to be some gray area. I think the moment it's being brought up or discussed more than once, then now you're entering the territory where it's basically like, okay, you have established something that probably does need a payoff, at least at some point. Flip side is if it's just brought up once, but it's something that's built like heavily emphasized and seems glaringly important. So for example, Law's immortality surgery. That needs to be in the story at some point in the story. Otherwise, it's like, why even bring this shit up, right? Not necessarily that Law has to kill himself and make a sacrifice, but some point in the story, this needs to come back up, or it needs to be referenced that, hey, maybe Im got that surgery done on him. Maybe one character got that surgery done on him, right? So certain things are definitely important. And then there's certain things that I would definitely consider Chekhov's guns, even if they were only brought up in a subtle way. But, But in such a weird manner that it has to be addressed at some point later in the story. So, for example, the Minx and their full moon, I don't think is a good example because that was brought up at least twice during Zo in a subtle way. But if I look through all of Wano or past arcs or something, you can clearly see examples, right? Crow Stray God says, what's more rare, a crew with multiple Conqueror's Haki users or a crew with multiple Awakened Devil Fruit users? Theoretically, shouldn't awakening your Devil Fruit be easier than unlocking your Conqueror's Haki? Theoretically, I think everyone can awaken their Devil Fruit, whereas Conqueror's Haki, it's like you're born with it, 1 in a million. You can't really develop it, right? So theoretically, Conqueror's Haki should be rarer. Multiple users of it. Hawkeye was like, why has this arc felt like Kaido wasn't the main villain until Act 3? Orochi seemed like the main villain for Act 1 and 2 for me. But because that's true. So normally, let's pretend. So, okay, let's play pretend. Playing pretend here, all right? So let's play pretend and say that this is the end of the arc. So the arc just closed, okay? So usually what happens over the course of an arc is basically somewhere in the story, and definitely at the midpoint of the story, which if this is the full story, we would say that, hey, that's arguably midpoint. You could argue is something around the time of Yasuo's death or something. Somewhere around there, the villain does something really major and devastating that hits the protagonist pretty hard and changes things in some way for them, right? So for any arc, you can kind of look at that and be like, okay, well, that's like Arlong taking Nami's money, right? Obviously, technically, it was the Marines who took it, but Arlong was the one who orchestrated that and had that happen, right? And he's the one that she came running to all mad about, right? Alabasta, it was Operation Utopia beginning, so the king being framed, the civil war being triggered, etc. Crocodile, the person behind all of that, right? Dressrosa, it's the birdcage starting, right? There's like every arc you can find, like Water 7 Enies Lobby, it's basically Lucci revealing himself, taking Robin away, etc., right? You could argue it happened again in the Sea Train where they tried again and Lucci took it away, right? So always at some point towards the middle part of the story, especially, the villain is doing something that's very, very bad that really establishes them as the villain and the threat that they pose, the stakes that come with them, what they're kind of about, why the protagonists really feel strongly about defeating them, okay? With Wano, it's a little different, and this plays into the raid failing idea, right? But we're playing pretend and saying that that's not the case, right? So in Wano, it's a little different in that Kaido never had a moment like that. The most active Kaido was in Act 1, but Act 1 really wasn't like much of a ways through this. We were literally day 1 in Wano. It was like Luffy's first 20 minutes, like, or hour in Wano or something. And Kaido swooped in and like took him out or whatever. But the plot of the story of what, like, that was more like a prologue, right? The plot of the story of Wano really plays out over the course of Act 2 and 3. Act 1 was just basically like just establishing that they're in Wano, this is what Wano's like, and relocating Luffy from Kuri to Udon, okay? So, looking at the story of Wano, the darkest point was definitely Yasuo's death that we've gotten so far, right? And the person responsible for Yasuo's death was Orochi, not Kaido. Kaido was a detached figure for pretty much the entirety of the Wano arc. So he was a detached figure for pretty much the entirety of the Wano arc. None of the bad stuff that they're going through, not that they're going through much, but let's say Yasuo's death, right? Even the one particularly bad thing that happens right around then, that's an Orochi thing, right? Similarly, a little before, that whole Shogun's Palace situation where, like, you know, Komurasaki, Toko, like, Orochi going crazy, everything, that's also Orochi. So Orochi was basically the figure that was the bad guy figure doing bad guy things. Kaido is kind of, he's just chilling. Kaido is not, like, he hasn't done really anything bad whatsoever across the entirety of Wano. Once the rooftop battle starts, that's when people start, like, trying to fight him and things like that, but he hasn't actively done that much to the people of Wano or in general, right? So that's why he's different than all of the other protagonists, because he has yet to do an actually truly villainous thing. You know what I mean? But again, that plays into why I think there's more to the arc. Mr. Fan 09 says, I believe Momo will ask the people of Wano if they want the borders to open, considering what they've endured. Maybe that's his first, that's a democratic process that he employs. Hold on 1 second. We have 1,800 people in here. That's great. 1,800 people in here. Like the stream. We should have at least 1,000 likes. Let's get it to 1,000 likes. Power Vision says, what's up, man? Big Mom's new lava homie's name is gonna be Vulcan, probably, over Hephaestus. You excited for it? Question mark. I don't know if Big Mom's making a lava homie, so I don't know. That'd be cool. That'd be cool to see. Big Mom could always use some more homies. Everyone could always use some more homies, right? Hamda Jaled says, we've never had an arc like Wano, build-up size, consequences, ... So it would make sense if its structure and ending being different than any other arc. That's true, but then you would expect it always to be more, it would go in the other direction, right? You would expect it to be bigger, more dramatic, more surprising, not the other way around, which is like, I guess, actively trying to make it less dramatic, less, how do you say? Yeah, like, it's as though all of the emotions, the reactions, etc., that are happening within this chapter and previous chapters is more understated, right? You would expect bigger, not the other way around, because that's what build-up is for. Build-up is for a bigger payoff. Anime Dimension says, the way I see Luffy sleeping soundly, so he won't wake up easy, so he is done for rest of arc. Kaido wakes up, he doesn't attack Alliance, but helps Straw Hats escape. And Big Mom also escaped, because if Big Mom dies, Nami loses her power-up. I don't personally agree with that, but I don't know if we'll get good guy Kaido after this, but maybe it's a possibility. More Raid discussion says, the subordinates also said no way Kaido's defeated. Yeah, but they're the that if anything, that doesn't help, because they're the subordinates. TCB says Thursday consistent is the plan. All right, thanks, man. Good to know. They're Kaido's subordinates. What else are they going to say? I don't view that as a good reason for me. Phantom Greyfire says, super from Mark Ross. Thanks, Phantom. Hey, Marge. He called me Marge, like Marge Simpson. How do you think the citizens will react to the real identity of Komurasaki, Denjiro, Momo? Question mark. Will they hesitate to believe it's all true / over? To be honest, can I be blunt? Okay, to be honest, maybe you guys feel very differently. So you guys tell me if you feel differently. I don't care almost at all about how the citizens react to the reveals that they're about to get, because I just don't. I don't know. I don't care too much about how the citizens react to all this stuff. It's like, because you know how Oda draws like crowds and stuff like that, right? Like it's like the way he draws like random fodder reacting to and learning about things. It's like they've got, I don't know, like they're just like the dumbest people in the world. Basically, it's just like. I think you guys know what I mean, but this is how there's like a certain way in which Oda writes reactions of general fodder and people or whatever. It's like, I don't know. It's like a 5-year. It's always like some 5-year-old is realizing something for the first time, and it's just like, it's like take a 5-year-old's reaction to this and just transpose it on like the fodder and have them all say that at the same time. That's kind of it. Not that I don't like the way Oda uses like large crowds and stuff like that in many cases, because I do like that quite a bit. But here it's like in this specific context, which is going to be they're going to be learning like, oh, Hiyori or Komurasaki was actually Lady Hiyori, and Momonosuke is the son of. It's going to be like lots of big eye-popping stuff, most likely like, whoa, the son of, or it's Odin-sama again. Oh, he's the son of Odin. Oh, he survived, and like people. I don't know. I think just the way the whole scene's going to play out, I think for me it's going to be kind of like just like going through the motions, like, okay, got to get these fodder reactions out of the way, and then we move it along. Supreme Pirate King says, so when recording your chapter videos, do you normally film them right after you read the chapter, or do you film them once you wake up? No, with the recent ones. So the recent ones that have been coming out on Thursdays, and then I'm doing them on Fridays. I think usually I read, unless something's going on Thursday or whatever, I'm reading it Thursday. And then it varies if I recorded that Thursday night, if I've got time, or if I just wait till the next morning to record it. But I prefer not changing my schedule for when I upload those chapter reviews. So I always want it to be out by 12:30 at the latest, if like I overslept or something, basically. But I always want to get it out on 12 on Fridays. So even if I can get the chapter reviews out on Thursday evenings, because I easily can, I just choose not to do that, because like then it gets to a point where it's like I don't know. I prefer having the structure of how I do my YouTube channel, basically, rather than like being like, okay, gotta jump on this to get an extra, I don't know, 10K, 20K views or something like that. Like at the end of the day, the people that want to watch it will watch it. I probably lose some initial viewership, right, off of random people who might just be looking to click on anything on Thursday evening as soon as the chapter comes out. But I've been like, okay, I don't care that much about it. I would rather preserve my own life schedule rather than turn everything on its head for a chapter. Maybe if something absolutely maybe I like break that rule at some point or something like that, and I have at some points in the past, like just gotten a chapter review out immediately after the chapter comes out if it came out early. But for the most part, I prefer to kind of just stick to how I do it. Drek the Drek says most of the Tobiropo didn't use Haki against the Straughts, and only the good guys used Awakening. No wonder people are underwhelmed. I can understand if the Tobiropo were too weak to awaken or whatever. I don't. So the Tobiropo being too weak to awaken is simply not an option because we have the Impel Down beast guards, right? Demon beast guards, right? So we know for a fact it's not about strength. You can be awakened even if you're really weak. So I would agree. We had all the good guys awaken, but the bad guys, forget the Tobiropo, Kaido, Big Mom, etc. No awakenings on their end. Goomba Boomba says, how will the flower... It's a funny name. How will the Flower Capital citizens follow Momo/Hiyori when they've been indoctrinated to believe that Kaido and Orochi are the rightful rulers? So I hope that Oda doesn't hand-wave this away, because it's pretty explicitly spelled out in chapter... first we see in chapter, I think, 919, that yes, many of the children, like all of the children at the very least, believe that Orochi's a good guy, right? So everybody internally... that's being raised in the Flower Capital culture believes that Orochi and Kaido are great, right? In 920, it was established that the people of Wano, and I forget, maybe it was the people of the Flower Capital, but at the very least, many of the people of Wano believe Kaido to be a guardian deity that protects the land, okay? That's how many of them view Kaido. That was established in 920. So that's not just children, that means like people in Wano. So with that in mind, it's like, I hope Oda does not just, hand wave it away or whatever. I hope it's addressed that, yeah, there should be a good number of people here that don't think Kaido and Orochi are bad. Hawkbox says, in my opinion, OP has gone downhill. The last 15 chapters have felt like a different author to me. So anticlimactic and out of theme. Am I being unreasonable? I mean, you know what I'm going to say. I'm going to always say that I like the Gear 5th stuff. I loved Gear 5th, and I feel like that was something that Oda was building towards for a long time. I think everything else surrounding that in these last 15 chapters, or whatever you want to call it, I'm probably close to where you're feeling. Caleb Brown says, appreciate you giving me this to listen to at work. Yeah, no worries. This also comes out on the Morge Streams channel tomorrow. For those of you that don't know, there's a Morge Streams channel where all the streams get saved to. They come out the next day. Rashid Stanley says, when Luffy lost Sabo's Vivre card at the beginning of Wano, do you think he lost it or did it disappear due to his death? Sabo's not dead. Come on now. We wouldn't. No, come on now. CDB says, I made a bet with a guy on Reddit that Kaido will get up and fight by 1060. He was so confident he gave me 10-1 odds. Easy, $100, so here's 5. Thanks, man, I appreciate it. By 1060, though, that's like, you're going to be waiting a while. You're waiting months and months. I gave my cutoff at 1051, unfortunately. For bets, so 1051 is when I'll be like, okay, so I'm supposed to say raid succeeded, and I have to shut up about the raid failing, unless Kaido gets back up or flashback starts or whatever. Then I'm allowed to go back to saying it. But 1051 was the cutoff I gave. I'll honor that, whatever. For bets, because I have 3 bets going right now. I have with Grand Line Review, I have with Sensei, and I have with Eric Terlato of the Red Force podcast. For bets, and I'll address them all individually so that they're aware of this. For bets, I'm going to wait like a little longer so we actually, like, the night actually ends and stuff like that. So it's actually fully established that, hey, nothing can actually go south or whatever from here on. Just because once I pay off on a bet, you can't really reverse that. So it's a little more ironclad, which is the only reason I'm not setting the cutoff for 1051 for that. Supreme Pirate King says Akainu stock is in a shaky place right now. That's actually hilarious. Yeah, they're just living in magma, so it kind of makes the magma fruit look a little not quite effective. At this moment in time. Obviously, magma attached to Akainu is much more like, he's got Haki and everything, so it's a much bigger deal, but it is kind of funny that like his whole ability and the whole thing that makes him dangerous is basically just a bath for the Yonko, because I don't believe that this is killing them, right? Actually, wait, that's a good question. Who thinks... Hold on. Kaido is done. Let's start with this. Who thinks Kaido is done? I asked this last time, but I just want to ask in the wake of the more recent chapters. Okay. Yes means Kaido is done. No means Kaido is not done. I phrased the answers very poorly. Are we going to hit a 2K viewers on a random Monday night stream? That's kind of crazy. Okay, so we got a no for that. I think a pretty resounding no. Okay, let me clarify. Who thinks he is done? Who thinks he will get up and cause trouble? That's more specific. Because you might be like, oh, well, I think he'll get back up next arc. Or like in a cover story or something like that. What I mean is like, who thinks he will get up and cause trouble today, right now? These are the big questions. These are the things that we need to know. Oh, so it's about the same. 70% yes. Okay. All right. I'd say you guys are high on copium, but so am I. So we're all in the same place. Nerve AMV Maker says, unlike other arcs, it seemed like Zoro was more involved with the plight of the people and wanting to help them. This plot thread seems dropped now. Again, so I'm going back and rereading. Zoro has some good scenes. I think Zoro's reaction to Yasue's death and everything like that was very strong. And then we got the follow-up scene where he's like, I'm going to avenge Yasue's death. I won't forgive Orochi. Those are the things that he's talked about. Then we get to the raid, and not only is Yasue never mentioned again, or like what getting revenge for Yasue would mean, he doesn't think about, or interact with Orochi, which is kind of wild, because it's kind of like, what was the point of those emotions and those motivations that were established? Like, that kind of seems like that was Zoro's whole storyline in Act 2. So it's a little like, so the motivation was unimportant? Or it was like, I don't know. And like, I'm not trying to nitpick and find some small things here. Like, that was Zoro's whole thing. Like, that was what his entire storyline kind of built to over the course of Act 2. Like, he runs into Hiyori, etc. Toko, he learns more about the people of Wano. He met with Yasue before, like, he meets with Yasu. That's who's kind of introducing him to the people of Wano, the plight of Wano. Then he meets with Hiyori and Yasue's daughter. They tell him more about it. Then it all finally builds to, he finds out that Toko's father is dying. It's Yasue, so he goes to the flower capital. He sees Yasue dying. He finds out just how bad the state of Wano is with the smiles and everything like that. He sees Yasue die. Orochi comes in. He's enraged. He's like, what's wrong with you people, etc. Enraged. He's unable to get revenge for Yasue in that moment, even though he tries. And then finally it all ends with him being like, okay, I understand now. I want to avenge Yasue's death. I'm not forgiving Orochi, right? That's everything that comes through with that. Solid. None of that comes through at any point in Act 3. In Act 3, it's like you could have skipped everything that happened for Zoro in Act 2, and he'd probably be acting the same. Like, there's no connection there, basically. It's as though Act 2 never happened, because none of that is ever referenced or ever suggested that it's fueling Zoro's motivation at any moment in Act 3, which is bizarre to me. Juan Yazoo says, what if Big Mom and Kaido awaken? Luffy beats Thin Big Mom. So we're assuming that Thin Big Mom is awakened Big Mom. ZKK, so Kaido doesn't get the Zoro kills Kaido, so Kaido doesn't get the satisfaction of being killed by Joy Boy. Zoro gets a higher bounty than Sanji. Listen, do you guys understand how many like things that we're preying on for the moment at the like with the raid feeling theory? I don't have the mental bandwidth right now to try and fit ZKK into this shit too. No offense whatsoever to that theory. I don't even feel as negatively towards it as I used to do before, because at this point, what's funny is that raid failers and ZKKers are both in the same boat at this point in time. We are technically on the same boat, because we both are on the boat of being like, please don't let this be the end. Please let Kaido get back up so that more shit happens, right? We're both on the same boat. But listen, we're facing opposite directions on this boat. We don't have to talk to each other, all right? We could share the same boat, and we're trying to row in the same direction, but we're not friends, all right? I will tolerate you being on the same boat with me, and hopefully you can tolerate us. But we're not talking to each other, all right? We're not buddy-buddy. We're just trying to get to the same direction, get to the same destination. That's it. You row on your side of the thing, I'll row on my side of the thing, and we're just going to keep going towards hopefully a final destination where Kaido is awakened and there's more to this story. But at this moment, I don't want to hear it. Atris says, I personally think Momo's discussion with Zunisha this chapter will lead to the raid failing. But what are your thoughts on the theory that Wano will open during the Laugh Tale arc? I personally think that the Wano arc as it is, it's like heavily structured around the idea that like like this whole conflict began with like this mantra, like let's open the borders, right? And that theme has been playing throughout this arc, that isolationism, that is something that is embedded deep into Wano's like culture, that Luffy comes in and is saying that's a flawed mentality, right? That's largely what his whole speech in Act 2 was about, right? I do think that Wano ultimately being opened up and ending this isolationist aspect of it, I do think that is important to happen within the Wano arc itself. I think it would not carry anywhere near the same weight if it's something that's just checked off towards the very end. MS says ZKK already sank. They have no boat anymore. Yeah, well, that's what people say about us. So we can't... pots can't call, kettles black or whatever, right? Actually, that's not even, like, the right way to use that phrase, but you get what I'm saying, right? We can make fun of them for that, but at the same time, look at where we're at. Preying on the next couple of chapters. We're just the same. We're all the same. Noah Phillips says, it's Morbin time. You know what's crazy is, like, I actually tried to look up multiple times, like, is Morbin time actually in that movie? And I haven't gotten a straight answer anywhere. Like, it's it's kind of, like, no one's seen it, which is obviously the meme that's been going around, but, like, I don't know. Like, no one's seen it. More raid discussion says, I mean, we never saw subordinates having hope that the villain is okay after defeat and having the good guys convince them to give up, lol, no point. That's true. That's true. That is something new because, again, that just plays into the fact that no one fucking saw this fight, which is just really weird. The closest you could argue is Katakuri in that, like, Luffy escapes the mirror world and everyone's like, this is BS. There's no way Katakuri lost. That's the closest thing. But the Katakuri fight was very different, right? This is more of like, you're defeating the big tyrant and his army, right? Like, you're freeing this nation, etc. But the army still needs to be convinced that the battle's over. I don't know. To me, that's not a huge red flag, I guess. But I can understand why people think it is because it just is never, like, that's so against. To me, that's like a symptom of the general idea that the way that Kaido went down was in a much more hidden, less dramatic, less climactic, less spectacular, sort of like resonates through the land sort of feel that we normally get when these sort of tyrants are defeated. Zaibatsu says, you feel the reason Kaido hasn't awakened if he already has awakening is because it would have taken the energy he was using to hold it would have taken the energy he was using to hold up Onigashima. I think there's no way to quantify, like, how much energy was Doflamingo using for the birdcage or Kaido using for Onigashima. I think as far as we know, it's just like this passive ability that will go away if they're defeated, but doesn't necessarily reflect that he's using a lot of energy. I don't know. It's hard to say. But I also lean towards this other theory that is very popular about Zoan awakenings in particular, which is that they can potentially only awaken when the user is in a near-death state, which is why Luffy was able to awaken when he did, and why Kaido may not even have been in a state where he could awaken until maybe just now. Atris says, part 2, to be more specific, are there any good reasons why Wano opening in Laugh Tale won't happen? No. I think that just story-wise, it makes more sense for the primary initiative of the arc, which this kind of was the primary initiative of the arc. You go through the Zoe, the setup, Odin's backstory, whatever, like multiple times throughout this arc in particular, that idea, that final goal of what we will say is like, this is when Wano has basically been, like, the dream has been realized, Odin's legacy finally fulfilled, is when the borders are open and everything like that. We've reached the new dawn, blah, 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 blah. Basically, that's sort of the sign that we're entering the new era of Wano, right? Kaido defeated, etc. New era is beginning. We're opening up the borders, whatever. I think that does matter, and that fits more, like, not even fits more, just like it's practically integral to the setup of this and like setup and build up of this entire arc. But you know, like, it's in, like, if Oda's just like, you know what, we'll just save that for the final arc. Yeah, that could happen. That could happen. I think it's losing the vast majority of the setup and build up towards that direction that we're getting in this arc specifically, because once it's final arc time, there'll be so much more going on that, like, opening the borders of Wano will just be kind of like checking off a box. Yeah. Young Doka says, wait on saying failure of raid till 1052/3. Momo not opening border. Big Mom Pirates never came. No one is awakening, but it's Beast Pirates equals Act 4 fire. That's a generally complicated statement, but I think I have to say, like, look, 1051 is going to come out. If there's no sign of anything or whatever, I'm just going to stop. I'll be like, look, it appears that the raid succeeded. Appears that I was wrong. Internally, I'm still going to be hoping and believing, and I'll make that clear as well. But I will stop saying that the raid's going to fail, and I will say that, like, it looks like I was wrong. It looks like I was wrong in this, blah, blah, blah. That's what I'll say. If we cut to the next day or some shit, then I can't even say it looks like I'm wrong. I'll just be wrong, basically. So, but we have to have a cutoff at some point. And I gave my word 1051, so I kind of just got to stick to it. I also think that it's very possible we'll be at the end of 1052, because 1052 ends with a break week, which is, we know it likes to save his biggest cliffhangers on that, but we have to have a cutoff. You got to stick to your word. I'm going to say 1051. Abdul J says the volcanic ash will blot out the impending dawn, and that's when the raid field begins. I hope so, man. What says, is there evidence? I don't remember that Zeus would vanish if Big Mom died, or is that just something people are saying probably would happen? I think that's just something people are saying. We have no idea if that's the case or not. Tobbs93 says, if Big Mom is dead, are you disappointed she never gained clarity on Kaido's actions in Wano? Disappointed she never gained clarity on Kaido's actions in Wano. Actually, I just had a thought on the Big Mom thing. Can't we solve this right now? I think we can solve this right now, right? So if we go to 800... So if we go to Big Mom's backstory, right? Chapter 870. I'm looking at the... No, 800 must be like 868. In Big Mom's backstory, we see Mother Carmel make a homie, and then that homie dies. What homie did she make? Did Mother Carmel make Prometheus? 860s. I'm curious right now. Sorry to derail, but we can solve this, right? So Big Mom makes a homie. She makes a homie. Is the homie that she made, is this homie Prometheus? It looks like Prometheus to me. It's like the same design as Prometheus. So Mother Carmel dies. Yeah, Mother Carmel dies, but then Prometheus lives on, is what it means, right? So that means that the homies survive past the death of their creator. Tobbs93 says that if Big Mom is dead, are you disappointed she never gained clarity on Kaido's actions in Wano? No, that was never a big part to me. In fact, I kind of want to forget that the whole mothering mode happened. Peanut says, whatever happened to Grim Reaper? P.S. Love emoji. I still think that death is an important part of the storyline. We just have to find out where it comes into play. Renra says, speaking of long-term bets, I have a bet going. One of Luffy's final punches will be called Son Goku Gun Gatling, etc. Love the channel and discussions. Thanks, man. And that's pretty cool. We know how much Oda loves the Dragon Ball Z inspiration, so we'll see. Angel Reyes says, Kaido's flashback purposefully hid Rock's content. Do you think this increases the chances of his comeback? Yes, definitely. It hid everything that we were actually being set up to get from his flashback. Keenan says, not trying to be weird or... thanks, Keenan, by the way, for the large donations as usual. Not trying to be weird or overly optimistic, but have you thought about what the raid failing would do for your channel? If it fails, honestly, I see you doubling subscribers within a month. Your name would be in every title. I think that there's literally no way to estimate something like that. Like, I have no way of guessing at that, basically. I have literally no way of speculating on that. And it's best not to. That's something that, honestly, I tried just not to think about, like, potentially what are the consequences, positive or not, of this happening. Because that just adds more complications to it. And it just makes it about something that, it just complicates it in my head. I'm like, let me just focus on, like, thinking about how things are going to play out right now. Ozzy Augie says, do you think Blackbeard is on his way to Wano? No, but now that we know he might not be going towards Whole Cake Island, maybe. I have no idea. Hawkbox says, if it's all over, does it mean Usopp had no impact? Yes, it means that not only did Usopp have no impact, he actually annoyed the shit out of everyone the entire time by talking about how much of a coward he is and how much he supports being a coward. So, I don't know. Felix C says, I never thought I'd fight alongside a ZKKer. Yeah, definitely Legolas Gimli vibes from the final movie. Ivan back from the card shop says Deathwink is Conqueror's Hockey and Sanji will use it. Thoughts? ? I don't think Deathwink is Conqueror's Hockey. Sam says I haven't heard anyone say anything about the eruption. Most definitely destroyed the waterfall and therefore opened the borders already. I don't know if that's how that works. I don't think so, but maybe it did. Mark Ross says Marge and Mark, we are most definitely friends. Yeah, if you call me Marge. Sure. Kakashi Snitch 9 says if 2 Yonko died of magma, does that make a kind of top 1 in the verse? Unquestionably. Felix C says SJ Twitter confirms, he says Shonen Jump Twitter confirms, he says it's Morbin time. Thank God we got that confirmation. Ronnie says, how do you think Oda will incorporate Morbius in the story from now on? How did this turn into a shit? How does everything just turn into a shitting on Morbius bonanza nowadays? I feel so bad for the creators of that movie. Like anybody who put like any degree of like time and effort and care into it. I feel bad for Jared Leto. Because this is like, dude, what's crazy is Jared Leto is like a good actor. He's legitimately a good actor. It's just that like you combine the things that stand out are most known about him are the Joker, which he'll probably never recover from. And even if he kind of recovered from that, Morbius is now like the one thing that he's going to be known for more than doing the Joker poorly is going to be fucking Morbius, which is just like... It's so sad because it's something we're all shitting on that we have never seen. Who has seen Morbius here? Let me throw that as a poll. Who has seen Morbius? Who has seen Morbius? Be honest. I want honest answers. I need honest answers because we're trying to get an actual gauge here. We're all making fun of Morbius. It's Morbin time. Let's find out. Let's Morb. Let's find out exactly how many of us actually committed to seeing this movie. Who has seen it? Drek the Drek says, Kaido, Big Mom, King, and Queen landed on mainland Wano upon their defeat, ? Could there be any relevance to that? You're better with analyzing themes and patterns than I am. All I can say is that it makes it very possible that they can all return. I mean, and we don't know if Kaido and Queen landed on mainland Wano. I mean, they landed under it. We don't know if it... No, 88%. So who are the sorry 12% of you that actually saw it? What are you thinking? So 10%. So we have about like close to 200 people here that saw Morbius. Interesting. 200 people. Big the Boss says, Morji-kun, I agree that Kaido gets back up. I agree too. His flashback continues and there'll be an Act 3 tragedy. Raid fails. But 1051 is too early a cutoff. Here's part of the reason I went with 1051. I was naive and foolish. Here's part of the reason I went with 1051. Because Oda has had many chapters, obviously, where it's like, seems like things are resolved, but then next chapter something picks up, right? Standard format for him. The most that Oda has ever made readers hold their breath, believing that a victory had happened, the longest period of time he's ever done that for was Ace, okay? So we had chapter, I believe, 571. 571, I believe, ends with Ace. Yeah, 571. 571 ends with Ace basically being saved, right? So in my mind, I'm like, okay, so that ends with Ace being saved. Then we get a full chapter 572 of Oda making it out to seem like, okay, Ace was saved. We're good to go. We're out of here, right? So there's a full celebratory chapter. What's going on here? Full celebratory chapter that then is followed by 573 where we get the twist, okay? So we had one chapter, 571, that ends with victory. Concludes with victory. Then we get a full fake out chapter 572. And then we get the twist at the end of 573. And that is the longest Oda has ever tricked the reader in that sense into believing that a victory has happened, right? There have been many times that Oda has made a victory happen and then at the end of the next chapter flips it on his head. That's happened many times. Ace was the longest Oda ever tried to trick someone. Well, trick the reader. So for me, I'm like, what are the chances? So we close 1049 with seemingly a victory. 1050 seems to be the celebratory chapter, right? I'm like, okay, so probably then the next chapter would be where you would expect some sort of a twist or turnaround. Because of Ace, in my mind, I didn't expect anything longer or anything dragged out more than one chapter in between. That was my thought process. It's entirely possible that Oda does something longer. Maybe we go like 2 chapters believing that the battle is over or something. I think that would personally be like really dragging it. But maybe just based on the scale of what's happening, that makes sense. Because right now, in terms of length and everything like that, this is a bigger deal than Marineford, whatever. So, maybe I was a little premature in being like, okay, 1051. We'll probably get a breather chapter. Then 1051, we get the script flipped. But maybe it doesn't happen in 1051. Either way, I gave my word. I gotta say what I gotta say. Zaibatsu says, so is Kaido the world's strongest in general or the world's strongest creature/beast specifically? Because honestly, if he was the strongest, I don't know how we go from there. How could there be any challenge? There's always the possibility that other villains get stronger, so maybe Blackbeard picks up another fruit. Maybe Akainu develops Advanced Conqueror's Haki. Maybe Im is stronger than we expected or whatever. Maybe Shanks is just as strong as Kaido, therefore, like, Luffy can get some competition when he faces Shanks / if he faces Shanks, things like that. Other villains can be stronger. We could get reveals that certain characters, like in Im, are stronger than we expected, things like that. Hamda Jaled says, Oda having Odin say open the borders for Joy Boy and Joy Boy being the main reason they'll be able to open them is proof that prophecies and destiny in One Piece are handled differently, which is better. Yeah, that's a good point. But we don't know yet fully if that was the only reason that he wanted to open the borders. Mr. Armageddon says, can you explain what you want out of the raid failing? I'm not trying to say it would be a bad thing, but do you want Wano to end in mostly failure, or do you want just a follow-up plot leading to a victory in Wano? I want a follow-up plot leading to victory in Wano. I personally feel as though this arc has been relatively low on drama, because there have been relatively, compared to all other past One Piece major storylines, relatively very, very few moments where the tone was particularly serious or was treated as though... there's a million other reasons, million overlapping reasons in terms of character arcs, character interactions, things that seem to be heading in certain directions, themes that seem severely incomplete. But the simplest thing I can say is basically, in terms of dramatic flow, we never truly hit a point where the way that the characters acted or how they thought about the current battle or anything like that was anything short of, like, obviously we're going to win. Which is very, very rare in One Piece and storytelling in general. That's the simplest thing. There's a million other things, like, you want to get into, like, full-on, like, themes, character arcs, story structure, stuff like that. But that's the simplest thing. King K says, do you think there is an Ashra and Enma connection with Buddhism reincarnation? I don't know, man. I don't know enough about that stuff. I'm not the type of guy to ask about that. Generally, in terms of outside lore connecting into One Piece, I'm probably one of the weaker people in general to comment on that. Death completes a person, and this might be Oda connecting the two. Maybe. I don't know. I have nothing to say. Terry Martin says, Morge, what the hell? I spent time making One Piece race tier list and find out you are over them. I don't want to see a race tier list. We're not making a race tier list. We're not going to go down as a racist bunch of whatevers. I'm going to check out what you sent, though, just out of curiosity. Oh, there's more races than I expected. Three-Eyed Tribe, Tantatas, forgot about them. Kumate Tribe, does that count as a race? Mermaids, minks, humans... Birka. Yeah, there's a lot of races. You know what? Maybe we do a race tier list at some point. That'd be funny. Shinkai9 Kami 16 says, if the raid fails, then what do you think will happen afterwards? What would be the story? What would be the aftermath? Also, you are king. This is kind of... I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not with that. I personally think if the raid fails, then we get a second section of Wano, which is regrouping to take down Kaido, who has now taken control over the mainland of Wano, as opposed to before when he was off to the side, basically a shadowy figure ruling in Onigashima, but now he would be more actively lording over Wano. Atris says, we still don't know why CP0 said Momo's fruit was a failure. Momo has pretty much succeeded at everything he's done so far. Yeah, see, that's one of the things I don't know if it's ever going to be addressed again or not. It might just be one of those things where, like, Oda's like, you know what? They just assumed it didn't work, but turns out it works. Kind of like with Sanji. They're like, hey, his fucking Germa body stuff doesn't work at all. Oh, you know what? It does work. Thomas Kaz says, Jared Leto was in the worst DC and Marvel movies. Unfortunately, that is true. And I don't think it's really his fault. I can't speak on Morbius, but it's just the way the first Suicide Squad was made kind of doomed him to fail. Felix C says Morgius. No. Shikai9 Kami 16 says accidentally pressed yes accidentally. All right. Keenan says, not gonna lie, I don't want to start another Mork thing, but Mr. Morb just fits way too well. God damn it. Aztec Device says, do you think Morbius could low diff Moria? Is Morbius first Yonko Commander level? I think it would be... No, I think Moria should be able to beat Morbius pretty good from what I've seen of the trailers. in terms of what Morbius. I can't really tell what Morbius can do. He's a vampire, so he can do vampire things. But Moria is probably a lot stronger. Poisson Theory says 1052 ends on the text bubble with Kaido's battle cry. Okay, maybe that would be nice. Sam R says, what was your opinion on Doctor Strange 2? Never watched it. Grizzly Adam says, my only opinion on Doctor Strange 2, because of the things that I've heard about it and learned about it, is that it's entirely about the Scarlet Witch, Wanda, who is like close to one of the worst or most poorly written character storylines in all of Marvel. Okay, and I'm not saying that to try to be mean to Marvel, because I think Marvel has like I think it's actually plotted out pretty good character storylines that it can kind of work with for many of its main characters, and it's got a huge number of characters to work with. Wanda's is the dumbest by far, and it's the one that I think Marvel strangely seems to think people are supposed to care about. Like, she fell in love with this like computer. She fell in love with a laptop, right? So she falls in love with this laptop. Keep in mind, they do very little to make us care about Vision whatsoever. He's just a sentient laptop, pretty much. In the background of some Marvel movies, I don't even remember which ones, there was no movie devoted to actually focusing on Wanda and Vision, all right? It's kind of just assumed, like, in the background of other ongoing Marvel movies, you'd kind of get these, like, little things slipped in of, like, oh, is Wanda into that, like, is she into that computer? Is Wanda into that computer? Oh, is she dating the laptop? Are she and the iPad actually a thing now? Okay. Oh, the iPad died. Oh, iPad died. Okay, so it died. Oh, and she's really upset about it. Okay. Good thing we had 15 minutes maybe of total screen time across like 10 movies devoted to fleshing this out. But turns out Wanda's really upset. Oh, she's really upset about this, and we're supposed to feel so sympathetic to her being upset that we would tune in to an entire TV miniseries about her being upset that this robot computer sentient iPad that she was dating is no longer around. And we're supposed to be invested in that miniseries. And you know what? The plot of that miniseries, which was about Wanda being upset over losing a computer, a sentient computer that she spent 10 minutes of screen time forming a relationship with, that miniseries is the basis of this major blockbuster movie, and we're supposed to still be fucking invested in this character's dumbass plot. Did nobody at any point in the entire Marvel universe be like, hey, Wanda, this is fucking weird. You're really weird. This is just bizarre. Vision is not a person. You're dating a computer. They all were kind enough to look the other way for so long about this weird thing. Like, I'm sure that's one of the things that's most talked about at Avengers headquarters. Like, hey, you heard about Wanda and Jarvis? Like, you hear what Wanda's doing with Jarvis? Like, Tony, how do you feel about that? Do you hear what Wanda, like, or do you think it's maybe just one of those weird things that's like so weird that they just don't, everybody kind of, it's like taboo. It's like the thing that they kind of just don't talk about. You know, it's just like not discussed at Avengers parties or whatever. It's kind of just like, yeah, we're just going to look the other way. Whatever Wanda wants to do online with that laptop, let her do it. I don't know. I don't know I don't know how the Avengers handle that whole situation. But when it gets to a point when Wanda's actually doing like acts of mass terrorism or some shit or whatever that she was doing in like that TV series, and then like God knows what she does in this movie, but it looks like she fucks up a lot of shit. At that point, it's like, yeah, we should probably nip this shit in the bud when it actually got started, right? We knew that something was off with that girl. We knew that we didn't approve of this. We should probably dealt with this a long time back before it led to this shit. I don't know. I'm just saying. Where are we at? How many supers did I miss? Oh, Sam asked what was my opinion on Doctor Strange 2, and that was how we got started there. I was scrolling back. I was like, how did we get here? Grizzly Adams says there was next to no symbolism or thematic weight to the way Kaido was defeated. Seems weird for the biggest arc and biggest villain in One Piece history. I mean, I don't think he's defeated. Tomorrow's video is actually evaluating the fight overall, and you'll be surprised. I've got a lot of good things to say about the fight, but I do address the ending quite a bit. So if you want my full thoughts on how it ended, because I think there's certain things. You see a lot of people saying it was fine, it was the same as other fights finish, which is not true, which can be looked at in my video. And then you see people saying it was underwhelming, but why was it underwhelming? I mean, it lasted 3 chapters. Shouldn't that be very epic and climactic? So I talk about that there's certain things that I think people aren't quite putting their finger on. There's a few key things that Oda did in this, which is jarringly different from like what he would ever do in any other fight. And jarringly different from what like any mangaka would ever want to write as the finale to their fight. Just watch tomorrow's video, and particularly the final section where I discuss the way the fight ended. There's a few things that Oda did that are undeniably not going to ultimately produce the same sort of emotional reaction out of a reader that other climaxes to fights do. I think the video will be the best way to elaborate on that. I'm not going to say anything more on that here. But there are a lot of things I liked about Luffy versus Kaido that I also gush about in that video. So I think it's a relatively fair video. You guys can watch it tomorrow. Terry Martin says, wait, no, we missed this. Old Green Knees says, all 100% of Zoan/Smiles are going to awaken in Rampage. I hope so. Kaido awakening is the trigger. Hashtag Raidfield 1052. Don't stop believing, Papa Morge. It's coming. Why are people not saying 1051? Are people already moved on to 1052? Fuck, I'm going to be the only loser basically being like, I guess the raid didn't fail in 1051, while the rest of y'all keep believing. I mean, I'll still be believing, but publicly I'm forced to say, hey, it looks like the raid didn't fail. Inside, I'll still be like, I think it'll happen in the next few chapters. But publicly, I'll be forced to be like, yeah. Terry Martin says, Max. Max is my nickname for those of you who don't know. I can't imagine what would make Momo's moment holding the island retroactively not awful. Also, everyone disliked the stream. No, don't listen to Terry Martin. I think Momo gets a better moment down the line, but there's no way to redeem that moment, so, you know. Zaibatsu says, you feel there will ever be a time where the entire group gets wiped and literally can't beat who they're facing until later, like against Kuma? I mean, it might happen soon, but it would be partly because they're really beat up and in a beat up state as is. Mark Ross says, Luffy said he was sending Kaido to the depths of hell. Zoro's the king of hell. ZKK confirmed. We are on the same boat nowadays, huh? Basim El Medawi says, I feel like Momonosuke's Devil Fruit is a failure because it doesn't appear to give Momonosuke a hybrid form, and it may not even give him an awakening. That's an interesting point. Yeah, we've never seen... People don't talk about this. I don't even think about this. Momo has no hybrid form. That's bizarre. Forget awakening. He can't even do the standard stuff. Terry Martin says, I think it's weird that you've held out for Raid Fail for so long, but you've already lost hope for Yamato getting a character arc. I haven't. I'm saying I personally believe that Yamato can get a character arc if Wano is longer. At this point in time, the meat of the story finished with Yamato not really having anything, you know? Like, if the story concludes here, then it's like, well, there was no time for an arc. She had a straight line throughout all of that, right? Aztec Device says, Moria, Morbius, Morpheus, Mr. Morgius, Worcestershire sauce, walruses. Thanks for that. Roy Keane says, don't you feel the Wano arc has dragged on for too long? Extending it might be a detriment to the overall story. I want it to be as long as it needs to be a really satisfying, great story. Because at the end of the day, 20 years from now, when we're rereading One Piece, we're not going to care when an arc is too long. We just care right now when we're impatient little fucks who are like, well, I want to know what we're getting to next week. I want to be at the next arc by next week. I want to be at the world-building phase right away. So we just always want immediate satisfaction, you know, instant gratification, as the kids say. Nathan H said, I think in the long term, having a long fleshed out, you know, it's like one of those things where it's like, you could say the same thing about One Piece itself, right? It's like, don't you think One Piece is getting a little too long? Like, if you had told, okay, so, fun fact, if you go back to when the time skip happened, right? So the halfway point of the story, if you had told people back then that One Piece is going to be like the time, like all of pre-time skip is not only not the half, like all of pre-time skip, so up to like the first 500, 600 chapters, right? Most likely, One Piece is going to be more, like, you're not at the halfway point. One Piece is probably twice that length and more, right? It's probably not going to be over by 1200 at the rate that we're going, right? Considering how long Wano's already been and everything like that, right? People would have been like, what? There's no way. There's no way that the new world is as long as the first half. If you don't believe me, go back and look. But most people were kind of like not fully aware. Now we're more aware. Now we're like, okay, obviously the first half and the second half are going to be roughly equal length. Maybe the second half is a little longer. But back then, most people were kind of more under the impression that like things are going to happen faster in the new world because like they've gone through the training and everything like that. People were not ready for the idea that that's literally the halfway point of the story. But with where we're at now, it's like, no, it makes sense. You want to tell the full narrative. You want to build like at the end of the day, when you're reading the full thing, you don't mind that it's really long because you actually have more content to delve into and the story like builds more and more dramatically. In the moment when you hear things like, oh my God, Marine 4 just ended. Wait, to see Luffy actually become Pirate King, we're going to have to wait like another 15, 20 years? Not 20, but like another 15 years? That's crazy. That's way too long. Oda's making the story way too long. But that's just how you feel in the moment. In retrospect, you're like, no, I'm glad he's taking the time to do this. Nathan H says, I just can't understand why Oda would make Awakenings integral to the defeat of both Yonkos, yet not reveal theirs when they 100% should have them. Well, I mean, we have a reason for that. We have a reason we can all guess at for that, which is that they have not shown it yet. Sam R says, lol, it gets worse. Doctor Strange 2 could be a 50-minute analysis video. Story is absolutely very bad. Effects are fine. Felt so bad, it's good / campy almost. I did hear that it's very gory and bloody. So, but you're telling me it's pretty, well, I guess it could be campy, but also that. Tobbs93 says, say Jared Leto joins One Piece Netflix. Who's he playing? Morbius. We already covered this. Cuckoo Man 4504 says, Sharathot, Luffy is much stronger than the Star Wars verse, but a Jedi would be a bad matchup against Luffy due to Jedi mind tricks. I don't think Luffy has Luffy is very easily influenced, like we saw with the color tricks, right? Like that Miss Golden Week did. So he's very easily influenced, but he has a strong will. Right? No, but the color tricks actually worked so ridiculously well against him. So, yeah, I think Luffy could get fucked up by that stuff. The pirate here says, 2 weeks ago I asked if your next video was about the Luffy Hungry line. You said no, but it totally was about his inequality dreams. Shake my head, shake my morb. Did I say no? Maybe I said, like, it's about more than that. I meant it's, like, about more than that. So, it wasn't just the Hungry line. I think it was about more than that. Aaron Will says, you think Kid is going to Elbaf or continuing on with the story? I think Kid will meet up with them in Elbaf personally at this point. There's a few reasons I have for Kid maybe showing up in Elbaf, but at the moment, like, it's like, it's not worth sharing because it's a little too hazy, basically. Ramen Stain says, Oda is a Morb fan, waiting for 1052 for raid fail so his hero Morg has to publicly admit to his fans he was wrong, creating the darkest moment before pulling the rug and revealing Marb's triumph. Thank you for spelling my name wrong, I think the most ways that I've seen anybody do so far. I mean, I don't mind having to say it for 1 week, but if at 1052 it doesn't flip, and then I have to wait like a full break week, then I'm going to feel pretty fucking bummed out. So if it's not 1051, dear God, let it be 1052. I can't handle a break week of this shit. Matthias Martin says, please put chat in slow mode. There are some bots Morb in the chat. Fuck. The reason I'm worried about this is because I don't know how to put chat in slow mode. Wait. I can do it. Hold on. Edit. How do you do this? Slow mode. Something say slow mode. Please. Customization. Slow mode. How long you want participants to wait? I'll say you guys have to wait. What's a good amount of time to have to wait? Wait. For slow mode, how long should you wait between messages? Why am I asking you guys? You guys don't want to have to wait at all. Let me say 15 seconds, 30, 45. How about that? You guys are probably just going to go vote 15. Yeah, Parvision. I figured it out. 10 minutes? 2 minutes, 20 seconds? What's the smart thing? Yeah, I don't know. I guess the smart thing isn't this. Yeah, obviously everyone's gonna vote for the lowest option. I'm gonna go with. I'll go with. Shit, this is not the smart way to do it. This makes me look like I don't know how to run my own stream, but I definitely do. I'll make an executive decision. Let's say, you know what? We'll say. I'm bad with executive decisions. We'll say 25 seconds saved. Right at that juicy halfway mark between 50 and 30 seconds. 25. All right, there we go. Drusser says we can catch all spammers within 15 seconds easily. Well, you got 25, Drusser. You should have said it earlier. Now everyone has to wait an extra 10 seconds because you're too slow to the jump. All right. Caleb Brown says, are we getting a Morge apology vid if the raid fails? Who do I have to apologize to if the raid... I don't have to apologize to anyone if the raid fails. I like how Matthias Martin had told me, please put the chat in slow mode because there's some bots morbing the chat. I'm not gonna lie, that actually like put off more alarms in my head. Because like if you're like, please put the chat in slow mode, I'd be like, I don't even know what that is. I don't want to deal with that right now. But you said there's some bots morbing the chat. And in my mind, I'm like, fuck, they're morbing the chat. That's... Can't be having bots morbing the chat. It stirred up some imagery in my head that was like pretty scary. I was like, can't have some morbing going on around here. Steven Brickena says, people saying this battle was hard and dramatic. Frankie Slash says, I can keep going. I have plenty of fuel left. Gee, it's almost like it wasn't that hard. Exactly. That's actually a really good point. I hadn't even thought about that like actively as a reason, but yeah, the strats are perfectly fine. They're chilling. AI says, if Morbius joined One Piece, except for Zoro, which is interesting that Zoro's still just like a standout, is basically just being way more injured than everybody, to the point that he's basically dead. AI says, if Morbius joined One Piece, he's easily Carabo. That's actually probably very accurate. Groovy Zeno says, help your mods do something about these racist bots, please. Were the bots being racist? I was told that there were Morbin bots. Is that what we're calling racism nowadays? Fuck. These police are sure Morbin out there. The fuck? These are some Morbin water fountains. Is that how we refer to racism in today's day and age? It's just crossed over with Morbius. Some of these damn Morbin senators. I don't know. I think Morbius just took a turn for the more serious. Aztec Device says, is Morbius the lurking legend? Part of Rocks. Imagine if that was revealed. It's just Oda draws in Morbius as the lurking legend. The lurking legend, the greatest villain that the Strats will ever face, will stand in their way. Morbius stands there. Volume 110, Morbin time. Old Green Knees says, Zoans awaken near death, which is why Sadie is constantly hurting the jailer guards. It's why Luffy awakened too. Also, I took a big bet that the raid fails. I am so happy that other people are taking big bets that the raid's going to fail. None as big as mine. At this moment in time, I have on the line $1,000 with Eric Turlato and sub bets with Grand Line and Sensei. So I would have to tell people, subscribe to Grand Line Reviews, subscribe to Sensei Inc. for 3 videos straight. Will make me go crazy. But that's what I've got on the line. As for what you just said, that is actually an amazing point. That is an amazing point. Zoans awaken near death, which is why Sadie is constantly hurting the jailer guards. I'm actually going to make a little note of that. And I'll give you credit too, Old Green Knees. You're the first person that's brought that up like that. Hold on. Old Green Knees says Sadie jailer guards. Because I've heard people say Zoans awaken near death, which I already obviously can understand. I like that idea. But playing into the Sadie torturing them thing, that's pretty funny. Like that just connects like that so easily. I didn't think. If that's the case, then that's one of those things where you just look back and you're like, unironically, because normally you would only say this as a joke, but unironically you look back and you're like, damn, Goda. Storm Rays Storm Rave says, I want to say that I think the raid failing could have worked if Oda hadn't wasted all its time on setup. That's one of my main issues with the arc. I don't know. It'll, like, depending on how it plays out, maybe we'll feel like everything was worth it or whatever. I don't know. Like, Terry Martin, I missed you, I think, says, even if raid fails, wasn't the setup pretty lacking? Like, I think that plays along the same lines. Maybe. Let's see how it goes, because maybe we were at the end of it, we're like, okay, yeah, we felt like all that setup was necessary. And the drama we got out of the things changing for the worse was really worth it. I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, you know, rereading the full arc. Let's see. I said, someone said, Morge the liberal. Well, like, those are the safer jokes to make, right? I think that's just correct. Anuj Agrawal says, Miss Super from thanks Anuj. From Basim El Medawi says, well, when Kaido told Luffy, if they don't see your defeat, they'll still believe in you, wasn't that a setup? The Beast Pirates never saw Kaido defeated. Oh, that's true. That is actually true. That's actually a great little point that connects back in. The Beast Pirates never saw Kaido defeated, so they still believe in Kaido. It's a funny little point. Day 6, 19, 2000 says, sorry, I always ask about non-One Piece opinions, lol. That being said, Daniel Day-Lewis or Jack Nicholson? I think Daniel Day-Lewis is just, like, the best act. Like, it's, okay, here's my opinion, right? So, like, there's certain actors that they're chameleons, right? Daniel Day-Lewis, Gary Oldman, ultimate chameleons. They can just turn into a totally different person, right? Unrecognizable, feels like a totally different whatever. Thomas Cass says disliking racism equals liberal. It's like, yeah, I think I'm saying like a pretty non-controversial opinion here, right? Like, we can all agree that Morbin is bad if Morbin means racism. I think that's pretty straightforward. But Daniel Day-Lewis is a chameleon, right? So if you want to grade an actor, and technically this is the most important thing about being an actor, it's like how well can you play a wide range of roles and actually just like your act, like how well can you make somebody believe that you are not you, that you are not an actor, but you are actually this whole other human being, right? That's what acting is, right? That's the number one thing about acting. So in that sense, Daniel Day-Lewis is pretty clear-cut the best, right? But Jack Nicholson, like at the same time, you have actors that basically, they bring so much of their own personality or whatever, so you still feel like you're watching Jack Nicholson, but it's such like you're so drawn into that performance and that unique type of charisma that this individual brings that sure, you're not disappearing into the role or embodying a whole different person to the same degree as maybe a Daniel Day-Lewis might do, but what you're bringing to the table is just as valuable, arguably more valuable depending on who you ask, right? So it's two different things, right? Aztec Device says Morge nickname tier list, question mark. Marge, Morb, Max, etc. question mark. Max is actually my nickname. That's my real nickname in life. That's don't put this into the tier list alongside things like Marge and Morb. Secondly, things like Marge, they haven't been around. Certain things need more time to develop, right? So Lorge, long time mainstay staple of my streams. I don't think I've ever gone through a full stream without at least someone calling me Lorge. Mork, that's become a new one. That's become a very, very popular new one. Lork is the natural extension of that. Recently, Morb, which I get the sense is about to stick. And Max is my actual real-life nickname, which does not belong with these other fake nicknames. That's actually what people call me in the real world, where I go outdoors and people call me by certain names. Max is an actual, genuine thing. I'm not stepping outside and people are like, hey, Morb. Hey, Mork, what's up? Juan Pret says, fuck, we actually don't know Morge's name. Luz Vasquez says, letterboxed at question mark. I don't have one. Thomas Cass says, current thoughts on Tama for Straw Hat, question mark. For me, greater than Yamato. I don't know. I don't really, okay. Was there anybody that really stood out from here as like, okay, definite Straw Hat material, basically? Like, oh, we can see from this person, like, obviously a cut above the rest, clearly about to join. I don't think so. I mean, the character that got treated the most like a Straw Hat over the course of this and went through the Straw Hat sort of beats over the course of this, that's factually Momonosuke, right? Most focus on his character arc, transformed the most thanks to Luffy, whatever. But there's the argument that, well, now he's about to be the Shogun of Wano. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know if anyone really stands out like that. I'm curious. Let me throw it out as a poll. Is there a clear new Straw Hat coming out of this arc? So I'm asking, is there a clear new Straw Hat coming out of this arc? I'm not asking, is there going to be a Straw Hat coming out of this arc? But I'm saying, do you guys right now see that there's an, like, because maybe you think, yeah, someone will definitely join. It'll just be a surprise pick. I'm saying right now, do you guys see a clear Straw Hat that we can all kind of be like, yeah, this person clearly looks like they're going to join? Big DeBoss says Morji-kun is the best nickname. Whatever floats your boat, man. No, I would agree. There's not a clear-cut Straw Hat, really. And it's been that way for a while now, right? Dressrosa, we had the same thing. So many arguments about the next Straw Hat. And then, it just doesn't really, nothing's really panned out for a bit. Drek the Drek says, if they get back up, do you see Kid saying something like, I'm fighting Kaido this time, Luffy, you had your chance. He has no reason to fight Big Mom since she doesn't care that he stole from her. Yeah, the Kid Big Mom connection, it never really went anywhere. I mean, there was never really one in the first place, but any past history they might have had was never referenced. I don't know, man. I don't know if, like, Kid and Law last we saw, they're pretty, like, Oda's been stressing that, like, if everyone were to go another round, it would not go well. Right? Like, sure, Frankie's saying he's got more fuel in the tank, but that's talking to fodder. Whereas when we saw Kaido come down in chapter 1043, when it seemed like Luffy had been defeated, when we saw Kaido come down, they're basically like, fuck it, we'll try. Like, Kid and Law, like, we'll try, but, like, we're pretty much at the end of our ropes. Peter Andre Resurrected says volcanic eruptions cause volcanic winter, which blocks out the sun, so a huge red flag. That's interesting. Also, thoughts on Celtics versus Heat and their matchup versus the Warriors. I'll share this very quickly because people get very bored when I talk basketball. I've said this earlier in the same stream, but I want the Warriors to win. My heart says Warriors. My head actually says Celtics. I know a lot of people are banking, like, people are like, well, Warriors are obviously the better team. I think that based on the matchup, and I think based on the fact that Warriors have been made to look like a better team because they've had next to no real legitimate challenges over the course of their finals run, I don't think the Warriors are as airtight as, like, people think. I think a lot's going to depend on, like, them being hot, shooting hot, and, like, sure, in theory, they've got the best shooting weapons out there, but at the same time, like, with physical defenses and everything, like, even with the Warriors, you don't really know. But I hope they win. Apollina Top Hat. I never say this one right. Yes, Morbius is going to be the next Straw Hat. That's, I meant besides Morbius, guys. Let's not talk about the obvious. Ivan back from the card shop says, Gorge Carrot is defo the next Straw Hat, not Copium. Maybe. I don't think so, though. I mean, I think right now, if the story were to end right now, there's zero chance Carrot joins. Maybe there was a second after Wano. Maybe. Wertio Man says, just finished rewatching Avatar. Crazy how I saw the raid on the capital failing during the day of the dark moon in a different way this time. Shiz was built up since the library LMAO. Love your vids. Yeah, I mean, I think so for people, okay, this is funny, but so out of people that I know in real life who are aware that I have a YouTube channel, even people who know nothing about One Piece, nothing about anime or whatever, even people in my general life who are like kind of in touch with, like, they've checked in occasionally or whatever, what I'm doing in YouTube, even they know about the raid fail. Because, like, it's just so constant everywhere, right? If you look up my name, it's just going to be tied to that. So, like, I've had friends basically who know nothing about One Piece be like, dude, what's the raid fail? Like, what's the raid fail? Like, they've asked about that. They don't understand that it's something, like, internal to the series. And so here's the analogy or, like, the example that I've always given to them, because most people have seen Avatar The Last Airbender. The go-to example I always have for them is basically, like, the Day of the Black Sun in Avatar, where they all did this big assault or whatever, and then it went bad. That's basically what I'm saying is happening. It's just on a much bigger scale, because that's the closest thing people can understand to it. So they're like, oh, okay, makes sense. But then people are confused why it's, like, still being talked about, and I have to be like, well, One Piece is a really long story. Aztec Device says, hey, Mork, listen here, the raid will fail. Agreed, I'm doubling down with all my friends. You should too. Just hearing how many of you guys are going out and making bets based on the raid, I'm like, obviously I'm going to do that. That's my thing, but, like, I'm a little worried. I'm like, how many of you guys are, like, making blind bets based on this stuff? I think we're all going to win out and be right, but I'm like, I also don't need to hear this. This adds to my stress slightly. I'm like, well, in the off chance that, like, this raid doesn't fail, Like, let's say hypothetically this was all wrong. Raid doesn't fail. Jesus Christ, how many of my dumbass subscribers are also going to lose a bunch of money over this, huh? I guess we're all in this together, so it feels a little better. I can also, on the flip side, be like, good. I'm happy other people are losing money too. But the good news is that we're all about to make off like bandits, rich as fuck, because the raid will fail soon. But just maybe not in 1051. Stormrave says, I really hope Oda pulls a Thriller Bark and has something crazy happen like how Kuma showed up. I hope it's like that too, but it's just Kaido showing back up. Morge Simpson for a nickname. Yeah, I'll consider it. Supreme Pirate King says, do you think Kaido will have a lesson on gender equality? I mean, that was like a thing that was almost a thing for like the early parts of Wano in Act 2. And then it just like wasn't. Gender roles have been mentioned a few times in this arc more than usual. Hiyori for Shogun. I mean, that'd be cool. Hiyori should be the Shogun rather than Momo. But, you know, I don't know if, like, unless Wano has a second half, there's not really room for that to be addressed in a meaningful way. Felix C says, Gorge, remembered, Torge, Lorge, Torge, Sjorge. Yeah, see, not all of those are going to stick. Then they have to float in organically. Guys, I'm going to call the stream in probably 10 minutes, so I'm just letting you guys know. The pirate here says, I bet my mortgage on the raid failing. Thanks, Morge. Yes, everyone please try and be like the pirate hero. You know what? Fuck it. Everybody, go out today, make a big bet on the raid failing. No, actually, you know what? What I just said, I'm a little worried that could be taken too literally and not as the joke, which it is. Let's clarify that. I just flash back to how many people get in trouble for encouraging gambling, like across YouTube, Twitch, etc. So you know what? Forget I said any of that. Phantom Greyfire says, super miss from Grizzly Adams. Kaido's Syria fruit is from a completely different myth to the koi on the waterfall. Also in the koi myth, it usually turns into a golden dragon. Interesting. Didn't know that. Yeah, the thing that I mentioned basically was just like, it's very possible that Oda made the dragon fruit an offshoot of the fish fruit, so as to give it a logical explanation for why no one could kill Kaido, because if he has an offshoot of a fish fruit, then he'd be able to survive underwater via drowning, the same way Jack could. Nebson says, I bet my mortgage. My mortgage. To read that twice. So Nebson bet his mortgage. It's good to know. Parvision says, Morge lawsuits incoming. I swear to God, if people take me to court over this, Wisdom Minari says, I bet my Morge plushie on the raid failing. No, don't bet your Morge plushes. Those are valuable. They're not in production at the moment. You don't want to lose those. There's certain things that are replaceable. Money, loved ones. That's pretty much it. Money and loved ones. But certainly not Morge plushes. All right? Milo says, damn, lucky you clarified it was a joke. I almost bet my life savings. Listen, you would not believe the dummies that come into this chat. In fact, so many dummies at certain points that we have to turn chat onto slow mode, where people can only talk once every 25 seconds or so. Can I turn slow mode off? Can I turn that off? Is that fine? I'm going to turn it off. We'll see what happens. If it ruins everything, then I'll just probably turn it back on. It's an easy fix. But yeah, a lot of dummies come into this chat. A lot of people who... a lot of dummies. A lot of people who don't know when I'm being serious or not serious. All right, we've seen it before. Wait. What? I can't turn slow mode off? Can I not turn slow mode off? I can turn slow mode off. All right. There we go. All right. We did it. Louis Vieira says, make more plushies. Yeah. I'll make more plushies if the raid fails. If the raid fails, we'll definitely turn it off. It's it's more... Okay, no, never mind. I'm seeing... Never mind. I'm turning it... All right. So here's what I saw from my perspective. I'm turning it back on. Here's what I saw from my perspective. All right. So I'm saying, all right, I think we can turn slow mode off. It'll be fine. Immediately, I'm seeing all of the mods crying out, just a wall of blue, mod after mod crying out, no, don't. So I see a wall of blue text saying no. And then immediately after that, I see the same dude spamming like 4 times in a row. It's Morbin time. So I think I just got a bit of a glimpse into what chat looked like pre-slow mode, which was basically a Morbapalooza. Michael says, do you think the Straw Hat Grand Fleet will show up since they would have seen Luffy died on their Vivre cards? Yes, I hope so. I hope that's because at this point, that trigger of Vivre cards signaling that somebody is in a near-death state or whatever, or about to die state, that trigger is extremely, extremely important, right? That was the key to everybody assembling to go save Ace, well, at least Luffy assembling to go save Ace. I would be shocked if it does not play a role. Like, how would you even explain that? The Grand Fleet just see Luffy's card burning up and they're like, fuck it, it's not time yet. We only come when Luffy calls for help. It's like, okay, but if the Vivre card's burning up, then wouldn't he be in a state where he's literally not capable of calling for help? Michael says, do you think the Straw Hat Grand... No, we covered this. Matthias Martin says, Morge, you aren't fighting alone anymore. You think risking money alone is going to be enough? You could at the very least risk... That is a very nice speech straight out of Alabasta. It's actually one of my favorite speeches of the series. But thanks, appreciated. Leapy says SSG special science gear. I like supersized giants. I've been rolling with that as the theory I kind of like. Just because supersized, like we've been getting so much of that that woven into the story for a bit, like with the Punk Hazard experiments, the numbers experiments. I think the supersized giants makes sense. Ivan back from the card shop says, I say turn it off. It's not like I have to mod it. I say turn it off, not like I have to mod it. Yeah. Caleb Brown says, don't the Straw Hats need an apprentice like Roger's crew? I mean, they don't need an apprentice. To be honest, they don't ever need that much. At this point, anyone in the crew that they get is nice to have. Like, I've seen people they can get Carrot because they need a lookout. It's like, they don't need a lookout. It's just like anybody can go be a fucking lookout. It would just be nice if you have somebody whose role is actively all the time to do that job specifically, who can get up there pretty quick. Thomas Cass says, plushie sale round 2 when raid fails. Yeah, definitely if the raid fails, then if/when the raid fails, we're getting some more plushies. They're going to be better this time. They're not going to be weird looking ones like the ones that we did last time. Lying around? No. It'll be much better. Much better plushes. Juan Perez says, isn't it confirmed special science group? I didn't know it's confirmed. Did Oda confirm it in an SBS or something? I know he didn't confirm it in the main story. All right. Let's say no more supers because I'm going to try and wind down at this point. Yeah, Juan, I don't think it's confirmed unless I missed something. Phantom says, my formal congratulations on finding a new layout. It's not great, but better. Now bring back the bookshelf and get a proper chair. Those are the next 2 steps. Not the bookshelf necessarily, but I want shelves in the walls. I actually have the shelves. They're just in a box. They have to be assembled. Grizzly Adams says, if Chopper wasn't a doctor, he'd have been the apprentice. If Chopper wasn't a doctor, he'd have been the apprentice. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Chopper could easily have played the role of the apprentice. But apprentice, I think they want young. Like, Chopper's 15 is the thing. Like, he's not that young. It's just like he's 15, but acts like he's 6 sometimes. So that's why you get the notion that he's basically the little kid of the crew. Seriously, okay, no more supers after this just because I'm going to answer these because you guys dropped them. But let's do no more supers just because I'm trying to wind down. But thanks, appreciated. Aztec Device says, when are the Mr. Morge NFTs dropping? This is not financial advice. Okay, One Piece mukbang celebration when the raid fails. I'll take my mod now. That what a stream of consciousness right there. I don't know about mukbang, but definitely a day-long drunk stream. That's definitely happening. Dynamo says, what are the odds that Kaido or Big Mom get back up? They must come back up with the volcano erupting. I mean, I think the odds are high, but you guys know... Sometimes people come in and ask just questions that they could probably guess the answer to, right? They come in and be like, hey, do you think Kaido's defeated? No. Hey, do you think Kaido's coming back up? No. What do you think I'm going to say? Obviously, yes. Obviously, he's going to get up. Obviously, he's not defeated. Phantom Greyfire says, miss super from Hamda Jaled. Oh, I missed it. Yeah, I didn't mean the raid can't fail or it'll be less dramatic or anything like that. Just that it isn't fair to compare it to less arc and all. Yeah, I guess so. DR says, in my opinion, Kaido is a joke of a villain if he really loses here. Never seriously injures anyone or awakens, ? Lido. Also like the stream to make Kaido get up. That's what'll happen for sure. All right. New rule. I will not answer the next super chat. If there's a new super chat, I'm not going to answer it from here on because that's just the only way to probably enforce that. Leo Princess Morgue. Breaking Bad is amazing, right? Breaking Bad is my favorite TV show. I've heard certain people push up other things like The Wire. I've heard people say Better Call Saul is better. Breaking Bad is my favorite show that I've seen. And I think that's probably not going to change just because of the time in my life that I saw it. It was just the experience of watching Breaking Bad live when everybody else is like watching that final season week to week when everybody else is tuned in, invested, everybody's dying to know how it ends, all that stuff. It was my first year in college too when we're all watching the final season of Breaking Bad. So it was just like, I've mentioned this multiple times, it was just like a very memorable way for me to finish out that show. And that was just fun, like everybody in the floor just getting together to watch episodes of Breaking Bad as they come through. Wait a sec. This one is too... I was going to ignore the super chat based on what I'd said, but it's too interesting for me to not mention. Nacho Stolel says, Chapter 240, an ingredient for sea prism stone comes from erupting volcanoes. Yonkos could be trapped. I hope not. Been a fan for years now. Keep it up. That is terrifying to hear. Let's check out Chapter 240. Sea prism stone comes from exploding volcanoes. Is that right? If that's the case, then we're in a bad situation most likely. Because otherwise, it's like, fuck. It's a very bad situation. Also, it would kind of explain why Wano is known as like this land where you can make sea stone, although that hasn't really come up pretty, recently. Because it just makes sense if it's built on like underwater volcanoes or whatever, they're able to... On the blues, okay, so I'm reading from 240. They say, that's right. This is because the molecular makeup of each cloud is different. On the blue sea, I hear that there's a mineral called kairoseki, sea stone. Kairoseki, it's because of that. Yes, that mineral contains a special substance. We call it pyrobloin. It's a molecule substance that gets ejected into the air by volcanic eruptions. When it comes in contact with water in the air, sea clouds and island clouds are created. I think this is more so just explaining how Cloud Island... So if you read the full context of the page, as far as I can tell, this is more so explaining how Sky Islands are made. So it's not really... Like, the Kairoseki... Well, no, but it does sound similar. So it sounds like the creation of Sky Islands and the creation of Sea Prism Stone, there's, like, similarities towards that. I don't know. Can someone clarify this page? It just means they're on a Sky Island now. It says Sebastian Loic. I mean, if a Sky Island was created here, I think I saw the theory for that around Twitter. I just didn't know what they were talking about. I was like, why does this make a Sky Island? But reading that chapter, it makes sense. AJK says, Morge, thoughts on Momo standing over Kaido with Odin's sword, being parallel to when Kaido held Momonosuke on Kuri's downfall. Standing over Kaido with Odin's sword. I mean, I don't know if Momonosuke is going to, execute, I don't know about that. I hope that we get to see Momonosuke and Kaido's encounter again, but we'll find out. I'm going to call the stream in 2 minutes. Pyrobloin is only part of Sea Stone. Yeah, in context, the whole explanation was about how sea clouds are made, but Kairoseki did come up there. So, who knows? It's possible. Yeah, other people, Isaiah Fitzhugh saying, hey, Morge, volcano eruption is going to cloud the sky, so now the dawn/sun can come out at the end of the night. It looks like that could be the case, but it's too early for us to basically say it. Milo says, Morge, what do you think the giant sword is for? I don't know if that's going to be used. I think that might just be like a remnant of the original user. Just like something cool to basically showcase or whatever. Or tease about what was going on in the past. I think the existence of the sword is pretty much what tells the viewer, the reader, that there was more to Onigashima, not just a random skull, but this is the remains of a great warrior or something like that. AJK says, Morge, what's the story on Oofty Oof? That is a long tale for another time. Not the end of the stream. Raul says, Sprite or Coke, Morge? I like Coke. I've always liked Coke better. Hawkeye says, is Game of Thrones worth watching in 2022? In my opinion, no. Roronoa D. Gut says, Kaido and Big Mom about to become poneglyphs. Maybe. All right, I'm going to answer one more good question. Let's see what Pirate says. Strongest mythical Zoan, Bat Bat No Mi, Model Morb. One more good question. Adrian Merritt says, what do you think will happen on 1051? Momo's new look revealed? Yeah, I do think that'll be revealed. That's not a good question, though. AJK says, lol, they got you. You like Coke? Yeah. Nah, ha, ha, ha. Yeah. Someone's just... Stop telling me to watch Arcane. Wasn't this the whole reason we turned on 25-second modes? To stop the spam? I don't want to watch Arcane. Maybe I will at some point. Electro Yellow says, please watch Arcane Morby. Calling me Morby will not help push me towards watching Arcane. I don't even know what I consider a good question at this point. I'm trying to see something that just stands out. Star Patrick says, thoughts on Vector the Crocodile? I'll believe him when I see him, but I'm never going to look him up, so I'll never see him. Okay, I'll just answer this. Nasty Boy Luigi says, do you think Rob Lucci is pulling up? I think it'll be cool. I would prefer the Marines to show up rather than CP0, but the sense I get is that it's going to be more world government oriented, so maybe more CP0. But I would like to see the Marines pull up. I mean, at the end of... at the bridge between Act 2 and Act 3, there was discussion among the Marines of potentially going to Wano. It's actually happened twice, also during the Reverie, with Kizaru being like, I should head over to Wano. And it kind of was like, nah, we can't deal with that right now. All right. You know what? Power Vision said, do you think Buster Calls are meaningless now? I mean, yeah. Like, honestly, there are multiple characters in the Straw Hats that could probably solo an entire set of... Like Buster Calls are just, they're not a big deal. It's just warships, which were a big deal once, but at this point, they're not a big deal. And like 5 Vice Admirals. Like, Vice Admirals are not that strong in the grand scheme of things. Like, if you remember, Bartolomeo literally beat up a Vice Admiral in the bathroom and just walked out of it casually. 5 Vice Admiral, like, if you pit the Straw Hats against 5 Vice Admirals, it would be a wash. Like, it would be so easy. You could take, like, even just a few Straw Hats. Like, I don't know. There's Straw Hats that I think could solo 5 Vice Admirals. Like, obviously, obviously, Luffy. I have Lucci on my mind because of what you just said. But, obviously, Luffy. But, like, I think Zoro, Sanji. I don't think Vice Admirals are that big of a deal at this point. Some of them are, but most of them aren't. Besides Garp and stuff. You guys know what I mean. All right, everybody. I think it's time. That time has come. It was a good stream. But at this point, it's time to call curtains. And yeah, watch out for my video tomorrow to get some thoughts on how I felt the fight of Luffy versus Kaido, assuming it's the end, stacked up to previous great One Piece fights.